find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. If we put in the time. Yeah. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, good evening. Welcome in everybody to Friday Frenzy. Hey. Was Friday Frenzy. Welcome into the Friday night day. Is today day 2? Is today only day 2?
Today is only day 2. Can you
oh
believe
my
it?
Goodness, I cannot believe it. Welcome into the day two recap co-stream with Joe Schmo and Trial TV Live with my friend the Squeegee of Justice.
How's everybody doing? Joe, how are you? You see,
I'm not there yet. I don't even know how I am yet.
What's going on, man?
Things haven't stopped since they started. And actually, the beginning of the day was really relaxing. But then everybody knows that things went south fast. And there are like actually 3 or 4 really big things that happened today. Mm-hmm. And I know that you guys probably didn't see the first one that happened before this all just got crazy. And then there may have been a second part that you didn't see. If they didn't start the cameras before the jury came back, you might not have seen it after that break. But right. we'll get to all of it. We'll get to all of it.
Cannot wait
to get to it. Welcome in to chat, everybody. I see lots of people I know in here. Lots of people I know and love.
We have some straddlers. We got people straddling both streams, which I love to see.
Nice. I'm straddling.
Led by Pammy, of course. Pammy's our chief straddler.
Yes.
She's our chief Izzy. Do you get that reference, Pammy? Does anybody else besides Joe and I get that reference?
Oh, thanks for sending me that this morning, though, too. I forgot to say thanks for that because I'm sitting there jamming out to that while I'm getting ready, while I'm tweeting out the new documents that came down.
Cool. I woke up at like 7 o'clock and I remembered it around 7:30. I'm like, wait a minute, let me do the math. No, it's like 4:30 your time. I'm not going to send that to you at 4:30, even though you were probably up.
I was up and I was awake.
Who needs coffee when you have Izzy straddling Pressure Drop?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was a good tune, too. I like the changes in tempo and dynamics and the different parts of it. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of some of the Guns N' Roses songs. Like Patience is like that. Patience has different, tempo and style within the same song.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get a chance, check out that album. I think he only did that one album, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the only album he put out with the Juju Hounds.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Maybe we should just dive right into this, because if not, we may be up till like 1 o'clock in the morning your time.
Let's do it. Yep, do it.
So like I said, the morning started out fine and relaxing. Traffic was great. It was a nice, smooth ride to the courthouse. I parked and I did my live. I'm doing a members only live now on my walk between the parking lot and the courthouse, and saying hey to all the members and thank you. And then just chilling out, hanging with all the people that are there. That's the people that are there at that time of the morning, hanging out and talking true crime, are really amazing people for the most part. I mean, they're so much fun, and they're there kind of for entertainment purposes, but they all also have very strong opinions about Lori, and they also all want to see justice for Brandon in this. So it's a good mix. It's a good mix and a lot of good people, and I'm making friends, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. I'm so happy for you that you're in there and you're meeting all these great people. You're having fantastic experiences, and we're living vicariously through you and your updates on Twitter, X, and then of course on YouTube. And are you going to do anything over the weekend as well, aside from what we're doing here?
I imagine I will.
Okay, good. So
one of the things I'm going to be, one of the things I'm going to be doing is getting a little bit of sleep and catching up on some chores.
What's that? What's that? Sleep? There's no sleep. No sleep right now. What's that song by the Beasties? No sleep till Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah, Aaron. Yep. There we go. I'm going to pull that up.
Oh, Dippity Dips. So. Oh, yep. Oh, Aaron. Oh, Brandon will definitely. Yeah. I mean, even just day 2 going. I mean, we're day 2, and Trina's probably going to go another 3-4 days, right? 5-6 days of testimony. Lori's not going to come up with anything. I think Brandon will get justice.
Lori is actually trying a little bit harder this time. So she found out about some documents, and she wanted to have them with her on cross of Brandon, and she didn't have them yesterday, which is why the judge let her skip, delay cross and put another witness in the middle. And that actually kind of got her co-counsel in trouble this morning. Did you see that? Did you know about that?
Co-counsel got in trouble. Yes. Yeah. That's what started it off. Yes.
Yeah. Did you see it on camera? They showed it on camera?
Yes. Yep. They did.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure, because he said, we're not going to start. He said, we'll give you until 8:50 to start. So you saw that, or 9:50. Mm-hmm. And she got there at 9:45.
Okay.
But she got a little chewing out by the judge, right?
He said that if this was a federal, she'd be in custody.
Yes.
That kind of threw me. I mean, I didn't realize that. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But
yeah, she had kind of a rough day, because that was the start to her day. So she's in her office trying to print pictures for Lori's defense, and she's having trouble printing them for some reason. Mm-hmm. And so she's late to court. She gets chewed out by the judge. And then Lori has her running exhibits up to the witnesses all day long. And she has these heels on that go clop, 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 on hard surfaces. And so that can't be comfortable. And I'm not making fun of the heels. I mean, women wear heels all the time, but she wears those all the time. And I can hear them very well, even in the court. Could you guys hear it on camera?
No, to be quite honest, I don't think I could pick that up. Other trials, yes, you definitely hear people comping around, but I don't know. We'll see what chat. I don't remember hearing that, but if you guys heard it, if it was there, it didn't stand out to me. In other trials that we've watched, it definitely stands out, but I did not. So Tasha says it was loud. Okay. Diane says she heard it as well. All right. MS. Okay. So you guys heard it. Oh, you're muted. I think you're muted, Joe.
Yep. I like Pam Hicks too. That's why I pulled this up. I mean, she's a public defender, so she probably doesn't get paid very well. And she has a ton of cases. And then she takes on this case that takes up so much time. She probably spends way more than 40 hours a week on it. Mm-hmm. And then this is the first time she's been late, and she got, thrown to the back seat by Lori once Lori became pro per.
Was there something about childcare? Did Judge Boreski say something about Hicks and childcare? Did I hear that right or no?
I didn't hear that. No.
Okay.
He just, I didn't hear that. He just said, "What do you have to say for yourself?" And she says, "Well, I was trying to print pictures and just was having trouble with it." And he said, "You can't have staff do that."
Yeah.
And then he just moved on. That's all. They just moved on to the next thing.
Before we get started in earnest, I just want to remind chat, if you guys have questions for Joe, just put, QQQ or big red exclamation points or something that we can see that you guys are asking specific questions, and then we can go ahead and star that, and we can get to your questions. It's just easier for us to pick that out of the chat. So
yeah. If we stop and answer the questions as we go, then it'll interrupt the flow. And like I said, we'll be here till 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern, just because of the big day.
Yep. All right. Without further ado.
That was a rough start to the day. So then Trina K got up and she said something about Lori in Abernathy. That's right. Okay, Abernathy had daycare problems. That's why he couldn't be there in the morning. But that put the pressure on Pam Hicks to be there because she was the only advisory council that could be there.
Okay.
Yep, there you go.
So I did hear that. I had that in my notes, and I just had Abernathy is late. Hicks had childcare issues. An email came in at 9:20. That's what I had. So, all right.
That answers that. And then Trina K got up and said something about, she made a statement about how Lori's opening statements were 404B violations. Mm-hmm. And judge said, well, she wasn't really testifying, but if she does continue down that path, that's going to open up the door for the state to bring in prior bad acts. Mm-hmm. And that was really the summary of that. Give me 1 second here. I gotta pull up.
Sure.
My other paper, my summary of what happened today. Here we go. This will help me out quite a bit.
Okay.
All right. So Detective Frerer, and I think the other detective pronounced it a little differently, but it was so fast I don't know what it was supposed to be. We carry on with the cross exam. She asked him about a cigarette butt at the scene. He didn't collect it. License plate on Alex's truck. He doesn't know what it means. So she asked if he knows what it means, the vanity plate. And he said he doesn't. And that was like going down a road that wasn't bearing any fruit. Then she gets into why he didn't test the bullet fragments. He said, I didn't think it was necessary. You didn't think it was necessary. I was not the case detective. Although we learned in earlier testimony that anybody there can send evidence out for testing. Mm-hmm. But she didn't pick up on that. She didn't remind him of that. And how long did he work on the case? Those usual questions she asks all the law enforcement officers. I don't know what that's going to help her, how that's going to help her. And then a little bit after 10 o'clock, redirect. Trina K talks about the hole in the seal in the Tesla door and how the fragments or the bullet itself could be lost because it's not a completely sealed vehicle. Then they talk about a firearm. So let me make sure. I'm gonna pause real briefly to read. So I've got my trial notes and then I've got my juror notes, and I've got them on two separate pages. And maybe one day I can figure out how to merge those and take them kind of both at the same time. That way I can read from them at the same time, and they're coincident time wise. I was better today with it than I was yesterday.
Okay.
I have 5 minutes into this. Juror 9 is looking around, and we made eye contact again. Mm-hmm. He's the one that's a little fidgety and gets a little bored and like chews on his fingernails, and it looks he's putting pen to paper on his lap, but I think he may just be doodling.
Oh, really? Wow.
He's doing it at times when you wouldn't really be taking notes.
Okay.
And he's doing it always like near the top of his page. It's not like the amount of scribbling that he's doing, he should have filled up like 4 pages by now. And I never see him turn a page, and I never see the pen go down the page very far.
Right.
So
right.
he might just be over there doodling and making it look like he's taking notes. I want to ask Juror 8, what is he doing over there?
Mm-hmm.
What is Captain Jack doing? So he gives a layman description to the jury, which they've heard before, of what happens when a firearm is fired and a bullet strikes a metal object, where the casing goes, casing's hot, and the bullet fragments when it hits a metal object. And remember, one of those jurors, and I think it's juror number 3 or juror number 4, his father was a gunsmith.
Oh, okay.
So if the detective makes any errors in his testimony about firearms, even if it's a minute one, this guy would probably recognize it, probably be able to recognize it. Or if what the detective is saying is 100% accurate, then he's like, all right, this is a credible witness. Not a firearms expert, but he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And then Frere concludes, we never found the casing, and it's more likely than not that the casing was still inside the Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lynette Mendoza, and she's the one, and I'm going to have to research the maps, and I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the video, because the exhibits are hard for us to see exactly where her house was. She's was the one with the ring cam.
She says it was directly behind Phelps. It's on Fairview Street, so it's directly behind Phelps. So does that help?
She was on a corner, right? So that street is one block away, but she was on the corner of a cross street,
right?
And I'm the type of person that I need to get on Google Maps, and I need to do like a point-to-point distance measurement to know exactly how far away that was.
Sure.
But then Trina K plays that video up on the screen of that Ring doorbell video. Did you guys get to see and hear that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, good. I didn't see the black car. I didn't see his Tesla drive by. Did you guys notice his Tesla drive by?
It was like a blip. It wasn't a smooth thing, because I guess it's motion detected. So it was like, boop, it was just like this quick little blip.
Okay, I missed it. It happened so fast, and she played it twice, and I was looking hard the second time, and I'm like, I don't see it. But the screens are a little bit hard to see. I had a better angle this time than I did last time she played a clip. But the sound, the audible sound of that shotgun blast or the firearm blast, rifle shot, whatever it was loud, and it was startling. Like it literally startled me in my seat, and I saw a couple of other people jump too. Wow. And then when she played it the second time, I didn't know she was playing the same clip a second time. It startled me the second time too. It was loud. Yes. Yeah. I didn't see the jurors flinch. So let's talk a second about my observations of the jury in general. What I've come to the conclusion in my observations of the jury is they have a baseline trial watching phase, pose, body language, where their baseline is supposed to be, and I'm pretty sure Judge Bresky probably told them this, motionless, like still like a statue, but paying attention to the witness and the exhibits. Like that's, I recognize what most of their baseline is. Okay. And most of their baseline is still as a statue, no facial expressions, no reactions. And Juror 9's baseline is fidgety and doodling on his pad. So when he has a different one that's noticeable, and his different one may be him actually paying attention to the witnesses and and whoever's, the attorney that's interviewing them, examining them. So I have come to a baseline after a day and a half.
No, it's great.
I'm like, I know what their baseline is. So now I'm looking for things that are outside of their baseline, behaviors that are different than their baseline.
So so you said when that gunshot went off and the bang, you said everybody kind of jerked up and stood up. Did you make any discernible noticing, I suppose, of how the jury reacted in particular? Did they all just kind of jump? Was that kind of like one of those kind of
I
things?
didn't see them jump. I wasn't actually looking up. I was looking down, scribbling a note real quick, or maybe I was typing in on my court notes, and I wasn't looking at them at that exact moment. And then I wasn't expecting a second one to be staring at them and like, okay, we're going to get a second one. What are you going to do? How are you going to react? So I wasn't able to get that reaction from them.
All right. No, that's okay. That's cool. Yeah. Cause I'd be wondered because you said his baseline is fidgety. Did he tweak out? But I guess you would have seen him like jittering after that. But
like within seconds of that happening, I did look over there and I didn't see any behavior out of the normal for any of them.
Right. Nobody had like PTSD and hit the ground and covered their heads
right.
It could have been. I mean, think about it. It could have been.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody could have gotten shot at. Somebody could have been in a war. Somebody could have been in a firefight. Right. Who knows? Yeah.
Yep. All right. So, she said she was supposed to be looking for a black vehicle. One of the Gibson PD detectives asked her to search her video for a black car going by, and that's when she noticed the gunshot, and she provided that evidence to them, the video. No cross-examination by Lori.
Mm-hmm. And no jury questions. So far, no jury questions.
None at all. Yeah, I have that note like further in my notes, and I also put it on Twitter. Like the last trial we had, we had several jury questions for several witnesses, and we have not had a single one now. And I wonder if it starts to become like a restrictive thing where like you're like, I want to ask a question, but nobody's asked a question before. Am I being weird if I ask a question?
Right. So, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the first person. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't want to be the first person. So it would be really cool if the judge would like give him a little bit of advice and say, hey, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I wonder in all of his trials, how many trials go all the way through without any jury questions?
Yeah. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. All right. So now Mr. Boudreaux returns to the stand, and she asks him, so weren't you married in 2009? And he goes, I believe it was 2008, October, whatever, 2008. So right off the bat, she messes up the year he got married.
Yep.
I'm like, it's not green chili chicken enchiladas, but it's close. And then she asked him a lot of the similar type of questioning she did for Adam Cox. We've known each other a long time. We've always been friendly. I helped with your kids. I helped with family. We went on vacations together. We went to holidays together. And then, eventually Trina K is like, objection, relevance, and judge is like, I'll allow it. And then she tries another one along the same line, and another objection. Judge goes, sustained. And then she tries another one, objection, sustained. I mean, she keeps trying to go down that line of questioning and won't give it up.
Yeah. I feel like she just has the script and she just keeps reading it. She just keeps like hitting her head against the wall.
Yeah.
How do you think, because she mentioned Braxy and she mentioned Breezy. How do you think Brandon felt about her mentioning his kids' names instead of saying your second? Well, she said first child, second child, but then she said, I was there to help Braxy. I flew in from Hawaii for your third child. I watched your kids when Breezy was born. Like, do you think that was like Trina K didn't say anything about that, but that's like in poor taste, I thought, right? To mention minors' names, or what do you think?
It is. And, it's definitely a breach of etiquette and definitely unethical, if not. I don't know. It's more than poor taste. It's horrible taste.
Yeah.
But the reason she's doing it is that she can appear to be more, more intimate with him, and make her look better. If she knows their names and mentions their names, she must care about them.
Yeah. And I just realized here I am. I just mentioned their names. Jeez. Oops. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I forgot to mention in my notes, because we're getting ready to get to the part before they actually called Brandon to the stand. There was a sidebar, and during that sidebar, the jury was very squirmy. Like they were like doing this and like moving all around, and it was the majority of them. It wasn't just like one or two. It was like they were squirming in their seats. So I don't know what that was about. So it was after Frere wrapped up and we were having our first sidebar of the day, sidebar, and they just got squirmy. That's my notes on them before Brandon came to the stand. So
wow.
And we get to we haven't got to October 2nd yet. I'm going to have to reduce this screen so I can see some other things. So yeah, okay, the objections sustained, move on with another one. And then she asked him if we have ever had any arguments. And she's just like stuck on this thing. So have we ever argued? Did we ever? Well, before June 25th, 2019, had we ever had any arguments? And what she was getting at, and he ended up saying it, was, did we ever argue face to face? And eventually he said, well, no, I can't recall any specific time. He said we had disagreements. We definitely had disagreements, but I can't recall any specific time that we had a face-to-face argument because I'm just not a confrontational person. And she goes, am I confrontational? Objection. And then there was another now she goes into that argument on June 25th, 2019 between Brandon and Melanie. And she asked about the topics they discussed. And then she basically asked in the middle of that, how much of that was I the topic of your conversation? How much did you bring up me in that argument? And it just took me back to Nancy Jo when she asked Nancy Jo, like, did you guys talk me the whole date that Charles had with Nancy Jo? Yeah, that's just that narcissistic thing that she's got to be the center of attention and everything must be about her. All the arguments and discussions on dates must be about her.
Right. I have a question because I think we passed it. She mentioned Drew Seidlin or Seidlin. Do you know that name?
I do not.
Okay. Because that was objected to, so nothing continued on with that. So, all right.
I wonder if that had to do with the ping pony dancing video thing.
We looked it up. It's a restaurant in Gulf Shores. Nothing remotely saying anything about gay, but apparently there's a song that is written that's called the Pink Pony, but it's inspired by another bar in California. But then there is a restaurant in York, England, that's actually called the Pink Pony that is gay. So,
okay.
I mean, he could have. It didn't have to be a gay bar. He could have just been. Maybe he was dancing with. Who knows who he was dancing with? But she was just hammering that home. Yeah.
And maybe he was just doing silly stuff, and guys will like do silly stuff and pretend that they're pretend that they're gay, but they just
Look at Higgins and McAlbert's doing
right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the grab ass thing. Yeah.
Look at that. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, she mentioned Drew Seidlin. Anyway, that got objected to. I'm like, who is that? I never heard that name before. But okay, sorry. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
So it was all about me. That's where you dropped. You stopped off.
Right.
Me,
but she mentioned under objection the Pink Pony twice today. So the jury had got to hear Pink Pony and Facebook video dancing also related to that one time, which was obviously objected to. And I think that may have been leading to one of the sidebars. Now she gets into the divorce. Who asked for the divorce? Melanie did that night after all of those accusations. The first one was trying to get her temple recommended. Well, we've already talked about all this. Now she wants to get back into it. Who actually filed for divorce? Brandon, when did you file? It's complicated because they had a mediator. So when you count it, now they get into the houses, who moved where, when, and when did the family home sell? They closed on it in September, and it closed on October 1st, which was coincidentally one day before the shooting.
Right.
And now she wants to get into a blow by blow of everything that happened on October 2nd, basically rehashing his testimony. So she rehashes his testimony and says, you did this, right? Correct. You did this, right? Correct. And then you did this, right? Correct. I mean, I don't know what the point of all that is.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Yep.
And she asked him all those blow by blows all the way up until he headed home from the gym. And then she just skips the part about the shooting.
Mm-hmm. And
she gets right into the police interview on the scene. Like, she doesn't say anything about, oh, so what happened when you got home? She's smart enough to avoid that. And then about the interview with Detective Pilar, or is it Pillar? Gosh darn it!
It's Pillar. Pillar. Yeah, Pillar.
Yeah, that's right. He said Pillar today. Yes, that's right. He said Pillar. Somebody kept saying Pilar, and it screwed me up. I can't remember who either on the stand or the judge. Somebody kept saying Pilar, and now that's stuck in my brain. So it's Pillar. He said Pillar on the stand today. Anyway, she's asking Brandon Boudreaux about his interview with Detective Pillar. And she asked, did you discuss Melanie? Yes. Did you discuss me? Yes. And at one point in time, I have in my notes in this discussion about all of the events of October 2nd, I look over and Juror 15 Juror 5, who's in the back row, yawns.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused me to yawn. And I'm like, stop it. It's contagious. And throughout the day-to-day, that happened 3 times. I looked over. He was a yawny guy today. I don't know if he got not much sleep last night or if he's feeling tired and run down or whatever it is, but he yawned a lot today. And he only caused me to yawn back 3 times. But then juror number 3 did it also. Juror number 3 caught me once. Some point later in the day. Now we get into a question where she asks him a question and he doesn't remember, or she thinks he said something else. And so she asked if he wants to see the police report to refresh your memory. Dizzy, can you cue that one up?
Was on that day on October 2nd, 2019?
Correct.
And in that interview, you told him basically what had happened. Is that correct?
I answered the questions that he asked, yeah.
And you told him all about Melanie. Is that correct?
That's a pretty broad question. I don't know that I could say that I told him all about Melanie.
So you discussed Melanie. Is that correct?
We did, yes.
And you discussed me. Is that correct?
We did, yes.
And he had asked you kind of what happened. Is that correct?
He asked me what happened? Mm-hmm. Yes, he asked me what happened.
And you talked about your divorce. Is that correct?
We did discuss parts of my divorce, yes.
And you had told Detective Pillar that someone had convinced her that you were gay. Is that correct?
Can you ask that question again?
You told Detective Pillar that someone had convinced Melanie that you were gay.
I can't remember if I specifically told him that someone had convinced Melanie that I was gay. I would have to review the conversation I had with him to be able to say for certain that's how I worded it.
Okay. Do you recall telling him that she has a friend named Lori? Melanie?
I did not say she has a friend named Lori. No.
You didn't? Would you like to look at your interview?
I
To refresh
said that
your
she-
recollection?
I said that she has an aunt named Lori.
Would you like to review this to refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Okay.
Have your Ms. Hicks? I think she has an exhibit she needs to approach with.
Miss K is discombobulated. She doesn't know what's going on. I mean, not Miss K. Sam Hicks. Sam Hicks was a little confused why Lori was bringing her a document. So she's in another world right now.
She just wants to show him to refresh his memory.
I'll forget a second.
I apologize.
God, her tone is just.
Did you hear that clip clop then?
Yeah, yeah. I
If you
now,
want to just
now I
read the
hear
page to
it.
yourself, and then I can ask you a question again.
All right, please be seated. The jury is no longer present. We've concluded that sidebar, a record's been made. I would just caution the defendant, again, she needs to be very careful, and she's
Wait,
getting
did we
into
miss
areas
something?
that could open
Hold
a
on,
huge
hold
door
on.
that I don't think she wants
Hold
to open. I'm going to make another record at 10:24.
Brandon didn't answer that in that clip. After he looked at the transcript, he should have answered her question.
About the friend named Lori, he said no, it was an aunt. That question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she also asked him a question about whether or not Lori influenced Melanie's belief that he was gay. That's what I was trying to get to.
Referred to you as a friend named Lori. I would have referred to you as an aunt named Lori.
Okay.
Do we skip something?
And it was
here?
me that you were talking about that convinced her that you were gay. Is that what you were referring to?
In that context, I never said that Lori is the one who convinced Melanie that I was gay.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
So in the second paragraph, it didn't say she's the one that convinced her that I'm gay.
Improper impeachment, refreshing. I'm not sure what she's doing.
Sustained.
Yeah.
Would you like to read it again?
If you would like me to, I can read it again.
Okay. It's line
There we
251.
go. Thanks, Dizzy. This is one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I read a different line. That is the in 251. I did specifically say that I thought you.
That I had convinced her.
Can you ask that
That I
question?
had convinced Melanie that you were gay?
I said that I specifically thought that you had been involved in convincing her that I'm gay. Yes, correct.
Okay. And so she did not show you herself a video of you dancing at the Pink Pony. Is that
Again, Your
correct?
Honor, to relevance to 404B.
Sustained. It's all sustained.
And what was your understanding of how I convinced Melanie of this accusation?
You have speculation.
Can we sidebar?
Poor Trina. She's just like constantly like objection, speculation, foundation.
That's good for now, Dizzy. Yeah. And the reason I wanted to have that up is because the jury was intrigued by that back and forth between Lori and Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And they were paying a lot more attention. Their baseline changed. They were sitting a little more forward in their seats, and their eyes were transfixed. Juror number 6, I have noted, was looking at Lori like very fixedly during this and during the sidebar. See that with that sidebar we just went to? When they went to sidebar, he was watching her, like he had his eyes on her. Now, during later sidebars, he would look at her, but he would also look at the judge, and he would look at Trina K. Like he was trying to read, facial expressions and things like that, because the jurors hear the white noise too, and they can't hear what they're discussing. All they can do is watch them, but they get to see their faces, and we don't. So right. that was fascinating to the jury, and Lori was fascinating to juror number 6. So keep that in mind.
I have a lot of notes saying says in a snotty voice. Lori's, snotty voice. Lori's just being very adversarial. Like she's just, would you like to review your interview to refresh your recollection? Does this refresh your memory, Brandon? I mean, she doesn't even call him Mr. Boudreaux. She calls him Brandon,
Right.
Would you like to read it again? Oh, it's like just that. It's like sitting across dinner at Thanksgiving with that person. You're just, I want to just throttle, she's just, anyway, she really got on my nerves big time today.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. Very condescending. Yeah. Dizzy. Yeah. Absolutely. Very condescending.
Okay. Now we can actually continue where you left off, Lori, because we get that 15-minute break. I mean, Lori, Dizzy, good grief.
No.
My brain is already fried.
It's mush, and we're only 40 minutes in.
Right.
We'll keep going. We'll keep going as far as we can.
Yeah, I think you can continue with that video, Dizzy, because we go to a break. There's a brief discussion about the 404B character evidence, and then there's a break, and we come back, and I think it starts going south from there.
Yeah.
But do they show the entire side? They probably show the entire sidebar, don't they, on TV?
They do, yeah. And people are like, "Why don't I hear anything? What's with the audio?" I'm like, "People, they're doing a sidebar. Why does Lori have headphones on?" It's like, people, take a deep breath. They're doing a sidebar.
Yeah, and everybody in the gallery gets to hear white noise.
Yeah.
Bloop, 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 bloop through the sidebar.
Oh, and people were talking about.
Please be seated. The jury's no longer present.
Here we go.
Included that sidebar. A record's been made. I would just caution the defendant again. She needs to be very careful, and she's getting into areas that could open a huge door that I don't think she wants open. I'm going to make another record at 1024 to 1025. We held a sidebar that I don't think made it onto the court record. That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory counsel were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405 that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she is a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
No, it'd be
Yeah,
405.
they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you.
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on.
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could
Okay.
include being convicted of 4 murders.
And
So
would you
talk
like,
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
you don't need to yell at me either.
yell at you, okay?
Yeah, you are. And you do not need to talk
Okay.
to me that way. I'm
Take her
very
out. Take
courteous.
her out.
I'm very courteous to
Take
you.
her out. No, you have been
Take her out.
nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings.
New T-shirt
Talk to your
idea.
advisory counsel about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
So everybody wants to know, what did she say there?
At the door?
Yeah, when she pointed back, did she point back at the judge? What did she do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe she was getting ready to say, "Are you not entertained?"
Do you want me to dance more? Dance, monkey.
We're gonna need a lip reader.
Right? She points back at judge, no?
Yeah, right
It's like-
before that she did.
Like right before that, Dizzy, if you don't mind.
Okay. One thing you have to understand about when she gets taken out of that door, she will look at whoever's seated right there in the corner by that gallery and she will smile at them most of the time. So I don't know if that's one of those interactions or if she's talking to, yeah.
So was that at her counsel or at her table, or was that at Boreski? Was that at the judge? Do we need a trajectory rod?
Right.
It seems to
That
me-
definitely looks more like the judge.
Yeah,
That definitely
awesome,
looks
Dizzy.
like the angle of the judge.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect, Dizzy. Yeah, I'm thinking she just looks like she pointed back to him, but it didn't seem like she was saying anything derogatory, right? Her facial expression wasn't like, F off or whatever, but she just,
Dad doesn't love me. He's sending me to my room for a timeout.
dang it, Dad.
This is so a father with his petulant daughter that's not getting any better. She's just getting
Yeah.
worse.
And I love Judge
Yeah.
Boreski just standing up. He just looked like such an omnipresent, pointing, and she's like, I'm being nothing but respectful to you. No, you're not. You're raising your voice. You're cutting me off.
Right. Well, and when he pointed at her is when she accused him of yelling at her.
Yeah.
She doesn't like being pointed at and
Mhm.
being told what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
That was a
Get her.
crazy interaction. And that's all anybody was talking about, of course,
that
all
was
across the world, probably.
absolutely. Now you said there were 3 or 4 other moments. That was one, obviously, but there's
Yeah,
still
one of the ones was Pam Hicks at the beginning. I didn't realize you
Okay.
guys had seen that because it was before we went on the record.
Okay, right, gotcha.
And he was hot. He was hot about that. So then they come back. So we have a break, and Twitter world is blowing up. And the YouTubes everywhere is blowing up. YouTube chat groups everywhere, and people were like, she got kicked out. I guess that's subject to interpretation, how you determine kicking out. But she got the heave ho from the court. Take her out. She got taken out.
Yep.
And
I don't-
she's lucky she didn't get taken out like her children and spouses.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like Judge Boreski would unalive her, although she was subject to the death penalty in Idaho before the prosecution messed up and there was like a disclosure issue or something, and they took the death penalty off the table.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to like that. I'm being sarcastic.
Sure.
Because taken out has multiple meanings.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So we get back from the break. He admonishes her. He says, if you continue lines of questioning after a sustained objection and other inappropriate behavior things, then I will be forced to revoke your pro per status. She says, I understand, Your Honor. I apologize, pretty quickly. Like she didn't think about it. He said, go consult with your advisory council on break. And there, please, for the love of God, knock this off and apologize to the judge. Please, let's get this over with.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought she was contrite, right? I didn't think she didn't sound sarcastic. She honestly sounded like she was apologetic. Did that come across for you guys there?
Yeah, yes. I
mean,
definitely right. But was her level of contrition, did it rise to the level of the error of her ways?
No. To that, I would say no. Yeah.
So then he moves on. The jury returns and cross-examination resumes of Mr. Brandon Boudreaux.
And I love what Judge Bresky says coming out of that. Did you catch what he said when the jury came back?
I didn't write it down.
All right. He said, I had to take care of a legal issue.
Yes. and he's so good at resuming to a normal, calm demeanor. Mm-hmm. Like, I almost think he's split personality, and Lori brings it out of him.
Well, I think that's him blowing up. Like that's the most emotion we're going to see out of him. And I think you realize that you're doing this in front of the court, you're doing this in front of the media, you're doing this probably in front of millions of people. I think he understands the gravity of the situation, and I think he knows, hey, I just possibly, I don't want to say made a fool of myself, but I didn't want my court to become like this, So he just seems like he's such a by the book guy. And this we saw a crack in the armor, right? We saw behind the curtain of Oz. And I think I know there are times when I feel like I let something out I don't want people to see. I'm always like, ooh, then when I come back, I'm even that much more like calm, everything's cool, right, that kind of thing. Right. So that's what I'm projecting that onto him. That's what I think. He took his 5 minutes, 15, whatever it was, and he came back and he's like, all right, let's just, right. I had to take care of it.
You notice she never does this in front of the jury.
No.
She waited until the jury was gone to throw this little fit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Start take a fight with the judge.
She is sly like a fox. There's no question.
Yep.
No question. All right. So jury comes back and Lori continues on.
Yeah, she continues on that question about why Melanie was convinced that Brandon was gay. She keeps trying to do that, and she asks it like 4 or 5 different ways, and he keeps saying, I don't understand what you're asking me. Can help me out here? He's like, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I just don't understand. Mm-hmm. And then she finally lands it after like 4 or 5 times, and then Brandon admits that he doesn't have direct personal knowledge that Lori is the one who convinced Melanie that he was gay. He doesn't have direct personal. I heard from Charles, and he heard from Melanie. But he actually didn't hear from Melanie that Lori was the one that did. Melanie never said that. Charles is the one where he got that information.
Yeah. Conversations with Charles. Yeah.
Yep. And Lori also accused Charles of being gay at one point in time. So it was like one of their trademark cult things, light and dark, gay, not gay.
Right.
So she landed that one finally. I thought that was a pretty good one for her. Mm-hmm. Now we get into the Jeep Wrangler. She's like really trying to dig into those VINs that he ran for the insurance quotes, and trying to find out if he also researched details on whether it was a 2-door or a 4-door Jeep Wrangler. Mm-hmm. Never could land that. He said, I didn't ever look that up. Then she asked him, when did he start selling insurance? 2018. And in that conversation, or in that back and forth, he says that he got the VINs from Charles for those. So I'm wondering if the jury's wondering where Charles is. where's Charles Vallow?
Yeah.
Who's Charles Vallow?
Maybe not yet. Like, I mean, Charles's name definitely has been brought up multiple times for sure. But like, I'm thinking, I mean, I know all the backstory obviously, but I'm thinking I haven't heard anything yet that would make me be like in the Charles's trial. Tylee was like all over that. You see her in the body cam, you heard her name everywhere. It's like, well, why isn't Tylee testifying? Like so far, I haven't gotten to that point yet of like, well, what's up with Charles? Where's he at? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree. I may not be there yet.
Yeah, we may get there. I mean, we may get there, but right now, like I'm just comparing it to Tylee because that we talked about that a lot. I'm like, okay, JJ, I can understand he's still young because he was young then. He's like maybe like 12. Well, he was like 8 back then or 6, but now he's 5, 6 years later. He would still be too young to maybe testify. But Tylee, she was 16 or 17, and then she now would be like 22 or something. So that's where I'm like, where's Tylee? We're hearing all about Tylee. She was there. Why don't we hear about Tylee? What's her side of the story? So for me, at least right now, I haven't gotten to that point yet of like, well, what's up with Charles? Where's he at? Are we going to hear from him? We may get there. But I haven't. I personally haven't heard enough yet to make me go down that path.
Right.
But we very well may. Because there were a couple of times where Lori was asking Brandon questions, and he's like, "Oh, you mean like your husband that's no longer alive?" Or, "Oh, you mean that July 11th when you killed your husband?" Or,
right.
Charles isn't here to answer that question because I heard it from Charles, but guess what? He can't verify that. Why? Well, because
exactly.
He's no. Yeah. So that would be so difficult as a witness, knowing you have all of this history with this person, and you just want to blurt out like Kay and Charles, you just want to blurt out at the top of your voice, "You killed my brother," whatever. I give Kay, she is one strong woman, that's for sure.
Yeah, and she's been there most of the week.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mallory. 199, appreciate you.
I love it here too.
Then there was a little boy. She brought up this little boy. Yes. That's where my notes lead us to. Yeah.
Yeah. So she starts getting into some of the details of, and it's not. I call it a police report, and Dizzy was having trouble finding that part of it earlier on because it's technically a police report, but it's a summary of the interview between Pillar and Brandon that day in his car. Did my camera just go dead? My camera just went dead.
No, you're good.
That's weird.
I can still see you.
Okay. It's not going to move. That's okay. Then I just won't move. I'm here for the duration.
Okay. Yep.
It has three colors of lights, and I'm used to seeing either green or blue, but now it's red.
Oh boy. Okay.
So the little boy in the police she asked him if he told Pillar about seeing a little boy, and Ms. K objects, so she tries it a different way, and then asks if he wants to read the report. And Ms. K says she's not asking a question, she's just wanting to hand the report to the witness. So she's struggling with how to get to this. And he tells her exactly how to ask it. Did you see a little boy that day? Or did you tell? Isn't that what he told her to tell him? Ask him, did you see a boy that day? Did you see a little boy that day? I think that's how she ended up asking it.
I have, did you see a little boy? I know I didn't see a little boy that day. What did you tell Detective Pillar? Oh, okay.
In your interview with Detective Pillar, you had mentioned that you saw a little boy. Is that correct?
No.
ask for some foundation?
Yeah, can you narrow
Okay.
that down a little
Sure,
more?
sure,
She laughs.
sure. In your narrative that you're talking to tell what happened to Detective Pillar in your interview, okay? Can I just show it to you and have you?
Your Honor, if she could just ask a question and properly
hold on.
question the witness.
She could just ask a question
I
properly.
would suggest you just ask, did you see a little boy that day?
Okay,
If that's what you're getting at.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you see a little boy that day, right after the glass had shattered?
No, I did not see a little boy that day.
Okay. And why did you tell that to Detective Pillar if you didn't see a little boy?
I don't believe I ever said that to Detective Pillar.
Okay. Would you like to see your interview?
Sure.
Supposed to say, would it help refresh your recollection?
She did say that earlier with the
It's
other.
404.
She did. Yes, she did. And
Yeah.
she should do it every time.
Yeah. But the way she says it, would it help to reflect?
You might want to read that
your-
whole paragraph to get some context.
Don't tell me what to do,
Well, that's
Lori.
Yeah, right. Well, that's because that's how the judge told her to phrase the question specifically.
Yeah.
He's helping her a lot. He really is.
I believe that's a typo.
So what did you think that you said that that's a typo of?
In that context, I was describing the window breaking. Without listening to that conversation, I couldn't tell you what the final word I said was, but I'm pretty confident I did not describe seeing a little boy there.
Okay, so that isn't why you thought that it was a paintball gun because there was a little boy there?
That is correct. I did not think it was a paintball gun because there was a little boy.
Okay. And so you didn't say you thought it was kids just being kids?
I'd have to review if there's a line where I talked about that.
Okay. .406 to 414.
I'm not sure which okay I hate more, John Pryor's okay or Lori Daybell's okay.
Mm. Ooh.
Okay, okay. And Pryor's like, okay. He was so condescending too.
Yeah. That's a wow.
That's one to think about. That's going to keep you up.
So you conveyed to Detective Pillar that you saw a little boy, you thought it was like a paintball gun or something?
I would object to
that
him
correct?
saying that. He did not say he said that.
Right, sustain.
So after reading that, do you recall saying something like that?
The context of what I was saying there was I was describing my thoughts that I was talking to the dispatcher when I mentioned the paintball gun. And the context that I was explaining was that my window was broken. And so without seeing a bullet, as I've described earlier, I thought possibly it could be a paintball gun.
Okay. And on your street that day, on October 2nd, were there kids on the street playing paintball?
No,
Oh. Were there kids anywhere walking around?
no.
And what time was this?
What time was what?
The time of this alleged shooting?
I can't say the exact time without looking at when I called 911 right after. So whatever time that was that I called 911.
Okay, so in the morning time, right?
Correct.
And it was like a bright sunny day that day?
Correct.
Okay.
And he had dropped his kids off at school. So
So you
kids were-
conveyed to him that you were thinking it was just kids being kids, you know, like a broken window?
I did not convey that to him. No,
You did not say that on line 416?
I conveyed to him what I was thinking when I was talking to the dispatcher.
So why were you telling that to Detective Pillar if you did not believe that?
I just explained why.
Which was what?
I was explaining my thoughts when I was talking to the dispatcher.
So he wasn't asking you a direct question. You were just going over what you said to the 911 dispatcher?
I was explaining in that context that you're referring to what I was thinking when I was talking to the dispatcher, when I said that I thought it might be a paintball gun.
But you had said before you were confused because you didn't even really know what was going on at that moment. Is that correct?
I would not say that's correct.
All right. I think that's
So
good.
you did not convey that.
Yeah, she's trying to do. Lori is trying a gotcha moment right there with that, trying to say that what he told the detective about what he told the dispatcher was in response to a question from the detective about what he thought went on. Clearly, after he saw the bullet hole, he changed his mind.
Mm-hmm.
She said alleged shooting,
Yeah.
And that's just something that a defense attorney should say.
Yeah.
When they're crossing witness. That's not implying it was a lie, but she will, and she did kind of in her opening statement allude to the fact that maybe it's a setup, or it is a setup, and that Brandon faked it.
Oh, no, Super Bowl. Jesus.
Oh, by the way, during that line of questioning, we just saw the juror, the line of questioning before that, the jurors were paying attention, but then the more she gets into the interview with Detective Pillar, the more bored they get. Like, I think they're also recognizing that she's trying the gotcha thing and she's just not pulling it off.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny that you say that, because I was thinking the same thing. I have that in my notes, that she's looking for this gotcha moment. But why did Brandon say it was a typo? That seems like it was way more than a typo. That seems like a typo is, him and her, or
right.
I went south versus north. This is like kids playing paintball. That's like a misunderstanding.
Yes, exactly. Right? Well, part of it also you have to remember is this a transcript of a recorded interview, or is this the detective having a lengthy conversation with this guy and then trying to remember what he's writing down afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
And don't we learn later from Detective Pillar that it wasn't recorded and that this is just him transcribing the interview afterwards?
Yeah, they sat in their car, right?
Yeah.
They were in the shade, or they went into the car because it was hot. Yeah.
Right.
And he does not have body cam, right? I think he did not have body cam.
He did not have body cam. No, detective, and that happened over in Chandler too. The detectives didn't have body worn cam, and the one walkthrough they did with Alex, it wasn't working.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen that, because either Alex is a really good actor or they're not all that bright to see through that.
Right.
We're getting close to lunch. So she's trying the gotcha moment with what he told the dispatcher versus what he told Detective Pillar. She asked about the glass from the Tesla. Did any of it get on you? Were there separate shards? Yeah, there were separate shards. They went inside the door. They went everywhere. They were all over me. What happened to the pieces that landed on you? Did they all, fall off of you when you got out of your car? And of course, he says probably not. And then she gets into his friends that came over to support him after the fact. Did they, and the officers that were on the scene asking the same questions? Did they go in the house? Did they go in the garage? I don't know or recall. And I have a note to myself, where is she going with this line of questioning? Like asking about the friends and the officers being in the house and being in the garage.
No clue. Yeah.
Nope.
No clue. Yeah. I got
it. Yeah. Then the jury is dismissed. And so the way the lunch breaks work is the judge is on a 1 hour lunch break now. He used to, in the last trial, he used to do 1.5 hour lunch breaks, and he knows we're a day behind. So he's only given us an hour lunch break. But here's the thing. They changed the rules about when they let the media and the public into the gallery seating. And now it's 15 minutes before. It's 10 to 15 minutes before. But if it's 10, it's technically legally 10 minutes before. But you got to be wrapping your stuff up and packing your bags and everything and getting ready to get in line and get in the gallery 15 minutes before. So that takes an hour lunch break down to 45 minutes.
You got to be quick. You got to be quick. Yep.
Then if I'm going to go down and do a lunch live, which I've been doing, you guys are on a 1/2 hour delay from me.
Yeah.
So that leaves a 15-minute lunch break.
Yeah.
So I've been doing my little live updates, my lunch break lives, a little earlier than the half-hour delay. So a lot of people don't want to jump over there and have any spoilers, which is fine. I understand that, but Judge Bereski is the one that's responsible for that, just so you know. It's all his fault.
Judge B. Shake our fist.
He's cracking the whip. So after he dismisses the jury for their lunch break and the clock starts ticking, there's a hearing on new evidence that Lori wants to admit. There's a set of emails between Brandon and Detective Pillar. Yep. Ms. K objects to it, and this is the other big news. She says there is still an those emails may contain information about the active investigation of Melanie Bordeaux POI.
Yes.
It's huge because we didn't know that for sure. We didn't have confirmation of that until she says it.
Yep.
In front of the world.
Yep.
So that's huge.
That is. You're right. That is huge.
For the admonition will resume at 1:15 p.m. Thank you. Please be seated. The jury is no longer present. All right, so I've reviewed Exhibit 192. The line of your question was to establish that this witness has had contact with Detective Pilar over the years, in the last 5 years. This particular email is actually, appears to be 3 separate emails in a string from February 12th of 2020. So what's the purpose of this? Yeah, are you trying to admit it? What are you?
I would like to ask him about it.
But what's relevant about it?
A lot of things, Your Honor.
What?
Judge, I can't hear her.
Please speak into the mic.
It's relevant to his discussion with Detective Pillar from the October 2nd date until this date on February 12th.
What is relevant about it that is an issue for this jury to decide? That's what relevance means. It's something that this jury either makes something more or less probable for some fact that they need to decide.
It's relevant in the way that this email communicates that the information that was being given to the detectives was directly from Brandon Boudreaux.
I know, but what in the content of that email is relevant for this case?
The fact that the last line.
Did I miss something? What's the last line?
Did I miss something?
So irritated over her.
Okay, hold on. Make sure everyone can hear you in the court reporter.
I would have to ask to see that as well. I don't.
So
know what she's
the
talking
last line was Pilar writes. Is it Pilar or Pillar?
What?
Did you just notice that? She's not supposed to approach the bench.
But he asked
to be.
He asked her to come up.
Did he?
Right? Pretty sure he did.
The fact that the last line.
The last time
What's the last line?
Pam nixed it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
At the bottom?
Now, when the jury's there, no, it has to go through.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That makes sense.
Okay, hold on. Make sure everyone can hear you in the court reporter.
I would have to ask to see that as well. I don't.
So
know what she's
the
talking
last
about.
line was Detective Pilar writes. Is it Pilar or Pillar?
Pillar, like a pillar in a building.
Pillar. Detective Pillar writes.
Pillar like a
This
pillar.
information is requested so we can see if Melanie has any financial gain from your death, basically, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that creates motive for Melanie. It seems like
Motive for Melanie.
I guess it's fair area for him to talk about in general, but it's also a fair area for you to talk to the detective about what areas they investigated. But let me hear the state's response. But as far as that particular email comes in, I mean, I suppose you could ask some questions about it. But let
Brandon
me hear
just
from the
pick
state.
his nose.
Judge, obviously that's one a conglomeration of emails, so I don't know that that
see.
fully covers everything.
I hope
Two, I guess the defendant has never raised a third-party defense. I'm not sure if she's trying to say that this was all Melanie Boudreaux, but that is actually an open investigation that is still ongoing. The state has, obviously in trial, referred to her as an active member of this conspiracy. So I'm not sure if she's trying to admit that or just question him if he was providing information to the police. But the last thing I will, again, just in terms of opening the door, is she's made a big deal about the number of calls and text messages. And as I've indicated, there is still an open investigation against Melanie Boudreaux. And so many of that information might relate to that case, or it might also relate to the Tammy Daybell case, because there was information about that, as well as the Charles Vallow case. So to infer that all of those conversations related solely to this defendant, this incident, October 2nd, is probably a little disingenuous.
Were you intending to enter that as an exhibit, or just ask, were you asked to provide information that Melanie might have a motive?
I would like to admit it, and I would like to question him on it as well, yes.
What is the bait page on
It's
that?
Bates 5465.
I don't know that there's anything in it that's particularly misleading or anything like that to the jury. I don't know how relevant it is, but I think to the extent that there may have been some questions about Melanie's participation and whether or not she had a motive are relevant. What's the state's response, I guess? I know she didn't notice third-party defense.
I guess I'm asking now, is she doing that? Obviously, I have a right to know before the trial ends if that's an active defense she's asking for.
I'm not, Your Honor. I'm trying to say the connection that I've been accused of with Melanie connects me to Melanie. So that's why I'm trying to establish, how am I connected to this? I didn't have a financial gain here. This is the financial gain through Melanie. This is conversations between the detective and Brandon that I want to question him on. I'm not trying to blame Melanie. That's my point.
I love that
I've
part.
not alleged a financial gain for the defendant, so
What was that? I'm sorry.
said I have not alleged a financial gain. I've not alleged much of a motive because we are trying to keep out much of that. So I guess, again, if we're going to start going into motives, then we have prior incidents of the defendant having financial gain in the previous trial that we did here. So if we want to go into the whole overarching financial scheme and cult activities, then we can do that. But again, the state had decided not to bring in any of that. If we're going to do that, then obviously we'll change who all of our witnesses are.
All right, let me, rather than just make a knee-jerk ruling, I'll think about it. We'll take this up at about 110. So please be ready to go at 110. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm not trying to blame Melanie, but oh, did I just remove myself? No, that's you. That's on your end.
Did I? There we go.
Hey, yeah, I love that. I'm not trying to blame Melanie, but she ends up, Melanie's got tire tracks all over her back after today.
Yeah, and there are also texts where I believe there are texts out there, and Trace on the case, I know you know this, and there are probably many other people in this chat too watching that know that there was a text that Lori sent that she believed that the money that Melanie was going to get was going to help pay for a lot of things for the quote unquote cult activity that Trina K just mentioned. Financial schemes and cult activity.
Yep. They were going to get $500,000. Well, they were going to get the full $1 million because the house sold for $1 million, and they were going to split it. So she would have gotten that. She would have gotten the insurance. She would have gotten, they had 4 kids, right? There's probably Brandon's Social Security. I mean, they planned to make a lot of money if Brandon was no longer in the picture.
Yep.
That was big. I mean, that was huge. Trina sounded like I have to change my entire witness list if we're going to do this, if we're going to go down this route.
And, yep. And that would be a huge delay. I mean, that would be a 60-day delay in the trial easily.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And-
speedy trial.
So would third party defense. Third party defense would do the exact same thing. And she opened the door. She's like, do you want to claim third party defense? And lawyer's like, nope. Don't want any part of that.
Yep.
Because there's no evidence. There's no evidence of a third party. There's an evidence of two parties. Yeah. Which is called a conspiracy.
A lot of people in our chat were definitely saying, Melanie, you sleep with one eye open, look, keep a sharp eye over your back, because you have an active investigation, or maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't know. I don't know. Maybe she's now like saying, what? I have a what?
Yeah. And we looked up the statute of limitations last night, or supposed statute of limitations.
Was it 10 years?
10 years.
10
yep,
years. Yeah.
10 years.
Yep.
So that's 1.5. Well, 2 to go.
Yep.
So yeah, lunch was crazy. Lunch was a mad rush for me to get downstairs and do my live and grab a sandwich. I had to grab one of the pre-made sandwiches out of the deli, which costs the exact same amount as a fresh made sandwich, but I didn't have time to stand in line and get a fresh made sandwich. That cafe there is pretty cool. The sandwiches are pretty good. They have a wide variety of ingredients, and they'll toast them for you. They'll toast the subs for you.
Nice.
Yeah, it's when you can wait for them to toast them for you.
Yeah. It's interesting because we were making comparisons between Melanie and Wendy Adelson, and then Donna Adelson news came in while we were in the middle of watching this. And it's interesting, the web of conspiracy that goes out between those two cases,
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah,
I didn't hear the Donna Adelson stuff. I saw a couple of memes about it, but they didn't tell me any of the facts of what happened.
She had a medical emergency and she had to be moved. But that's about it. Yeah, she just had to be moved because of some kind of medical emergency.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get back from lunch and cross-examination resumes. And first though, the judge weighs in on that, and he tells Lori and Trina K what questions they can ask, exactly what questions they can ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question, obviously, that he tells to Lori, she asked exactly how he said it. But then she goes on there, and while this is going on, the jury, I have in my notes, the jury is very attentive when she comes back to resume her cross of Brandon. So to start out with a question that the judge phrased very carefully for her is a good thing for her, and the jury paying attention in that moment was probably a little bit of a positive for her, but she takes it and she leverages it pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't let her enter those emails in as evidence because of the other stuff that's in those. She would probably have been better off if she said it's the last line. She probably would have been better off just trying to enter that email with that last line. Like, I don't know why she's trying to enter in 3 emails or a chain of emails. Just the very last one. That's what you should be putting in there.
Right.
So she follows up that question with exactly what documents he provided. Did Detective Pillar ask her, or ask him? Did Detective Pillar ask him to provide documents of any type of financial gain that Melanie might get from his demise on October 2nd? This was a good line of questioning. And he asked her a couple times to rephrase it. She finally gets to the fact that she has to she gets to the fact that his life insurance policy, that he provided the life insurance policy to Detective Pillar, and she asked if there was anything else that he provided to him, and he says, I don't remember. Would a document refresh your recollection? This document, she gives it to Pam Hicks to look at, to take up to Brandon to look at. And Miss Hicks looks at it, and she goes, in her head, in her mind, I think Trina K should take a look at this. So she walks it over and she hands it to Trina K, and Trina K is like, sidebar. And this is a really, really, really long sidebar. This is okay. So before we get to the sidebar, I have in my notes that this back and forth about this life insurance policy and the other financial gain by Melanie Gibb. There are two of the jurors in the back row. Oh, no. We're not to the two jurors in the back row yet. This is all of the jurors, or a majority of the jurors, except for number 9, maybe a couple of others, are watching very intently. Like they're on their edge of their seat, and when we go to sidebar, they're watching it almost like a TV drama, especially juror number 5. I mean, he's on the edge of his seat. He's watching Lori, he's watching the judge, he's watching all of them, and others are also engaged in watching them for a while, like it's a TV drama. But when it drags on and on and on, they start losing interest, they start getting bored, they start like sitting back, and occasionally they'll like re-engage their interest, kind of like a football game, like a regular Saturday night football or Saturday football game, like where you watch parts of it and you're not interested in parts of it. It was kind of like that. It's like a TV show for them. Meanwhile, while they get bored, juror number 6 is he's the one that has watched Lori a little bit more than the other jurors and studied her a little more. He's chatty. So I saw him yesterday talking to the juror to his right, so that'd be juror number 5. And juror number 5 responded to him. And then today he says something to juror number 6, and juror number 6 does not respond to him. But then there's more back and forth between him and 5. He says something to 5 again. 5 says something back. So I really hope they're not talking about the case. Maybe they're just talking about, I'm getting uncomfortable, I'm getting tired. But there's white noise in there, so I'm not sure who else could hear that conversation if they were having an inappropriate conversation, or might be inappropriate, like the Social Security conversation between juror 15 and juror 16 in the last trial. I don't, you got to wonder who heard that and who reported that, who snitched.
Right.
5 and 7 and 6.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
About yesterday, we stopped the cross of Brandon because she wanted to bring documents in. Do you think, like, what were those documents? Because she was able to go ahead and cross him. So what do you think that those emails were these documents, or what were the documents?
So Mr. Abernathy brought in some documents in the middle of the previous finish of the detective from this morning. She had to finish his cross, and in the middle of that is when Mr. Abernathy brought in more documents, or towards the end of it. So it makes me wonder too what they were, but there were rumors that the private investigator had disappeared and she couldn't contact him, and he had like the entire file on Brandon. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but we don't have evidence one way or the other. But all of these types of things fuel speculation,
right?
Fuel interest.
Yeah, yesterday the investigator, they couldn't get a hold of him. Email, phone call, wasn't returning. Basically, he ghosted her. And then, he has all of her documents. And then that's why Cross was kicked to today for Brandon. And then it just occurred to me, because now here we are talking about all these documents. And then I totally forgot I wanted to ask you that earlier when we were talking about Brandon. So I'm like, what were those documents, I wonder?
Was it a select few like the emails, or was it
the transcripts? Yeah, to refresh his recollection and all that. Must have been those. Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That would make sense.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
All right. So we have that lengthy sidebar that bores the crap out of everybody, including the jury. I guarantee you they were bored. And I started scribbling a note after that, and I just don't get there, but I don't. Oh, okay. So she asked more about the life insurance policy, of which Melanie Boudreaux was the beneficiary on October 2nd, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't change it because it was a whole life policy, and he couldn't change the beneficiary unless she agreed to it. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then she asked him a little bit about meeting with the prosecutor. Did you meet with the prosecutor for trial prep? Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. We met 2 times for about 2 hours each. Mm-hmm. Then she asked about the cameras on the Tesla. Mm-hmm. They have 360 viewing and recording capabilities. And he says, well, my car didn't save any of that video.
Yeah, his model doesn't save those recordings. So it's just live. You can just see, if somebody's coming up, if you're past, I think it's for like highway, if you're too close, or obviously if you're backing up, and then in the front, but it doesn't record. It just shows you, it's like a window basically to the outside world, but it doesn't actually record. He said his model, that model doesn't save the recordings. So.
Right. Well, the way that Detective Pillar puts it later is it didn't have a saving device. So I wonder if you can like put a SD card or something in it to save those, or if that's not even possible on that model, if it's only live video, which seems kind of silly to me, because as advanced as they are, and as much as we have, dash cams and all kinds of other things that you would be able to record it.
Right.
I mean, Tesla is supposed to be advanced.
Yeah, it was. He said it was like 3 or 4 years old in 2019. So,
yeah.
If you still think, I would have thought they would have had it back then too. What does Olsec or whatever he calls it? Like he calls the upgrade something. He has a special name for that.
Oh, yeah, and I didn't write that down, but I knew what he was talking about. I mean, I knew the term.
I wrote it down. Let me see if I can find it. Features trim packaging. The trim package.
Yes, trim package. Yes.
Trim package, yeah. Features that on vehicle make it better, yeah.
Like my Mustang, my 2009 Mustang is a pony package. Mm-hmm. So it's got leather seats.
Nice. What color?
Silver with black trim.
Ooh, nice.
And Hot Wheels style wheels.
Joe rocking the silver Mustang. Nice.
So this is when I'm really, really confused. And I've got to eventually we're going to have to put a map together for this part too, for his trip around the block and the Jeep. And she asked him about the day of the incident when the Jeep passed him. And he said he passed me on the right, or it passed me on the right, and I couldn't see the driver. Did you have your phone, and did you take pictures of the Jeep? No, I didn't. Didn't take pictures of the plate. I mean, I understand in that moment your adrenaline's going and you may forget about that. I've actually forgotten to take pictures at relevant times.
Sure.
And with not even my adrenaline going as high as his was probably going.
Right.
But I don't understand, because I thought that when he took off, he went to the end of the block and then he went all the way up north, or all the way out west to the T. And then he went up north to park next to the pool. which is beyond the street where supposedly the Jeep turned. So I may have to pull up a map here, Dizzy. Give me a second.
I texted you the where the ring was from. If you did you get that?
Not yet.
Okay, 3893 East Fairview. That's where the ring was located.
Okay, give me 1 second here while I got to have a map to understand this, because I don't want to think that he was confused, but I definitely heard one thing.
And I took notes. Driving back from the pool area, he saw the Jeep. He turned onto Waite and then south onto Fisher. He saw the Jeep leave. That's why he turned around and followed the Jeep and didn't see it on Fisher or Phelps. The only way the Jeep could have gone was Fairview, but he also told 911 Peso. These names mean nothing to me because I'm not familiar with the area, but I should have taken a screenshot, because when I guess yesterday they were showing, his path, and just it didn't dawn on me that would be relevant or important. But but now it is.
3893 East Fairview.
3893. Yep. Now that's the ring, but you'll see Phelps and Waite. You'll see.
Right. Yeah.
And there's tennis.
But I also want to see that. And I would usually do this on Google Earth so I could stick pins in there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's turn on map.
Yeah, Phelps is a very small street. When you pull it up, I'm surprised at how short it is. It's like maybe 100 yards, if that, 50 yards.
And what was his number? What was his number on Phelps?
Hold on a sec. Phelps. He was 3875.
All right. I'm gonna.
And she's 3893 East Fairview. He's 3875 Phelps.
Okay.
So that's where she was saying it's like literally behind, and you can kind of see it.
It is, yeah. And they're really close, actually. But
yeah.
That gunshot was loud, I'm telling you. All right, I'm going to share this. Give me 1 second to go back to StreamYard.
Sure.
Present, share screen. Boop, boop.
Boop. Did you ever boop Charlie's nose? Boop.
We did. Yes, we had boops.
Boop.
All right. So there's one way in and one way out of this entire subdivision here. So this is East Pecos, where eventually the Jeep left.
Mm-hmm.
Here's East Fairview.
Mm-hmm.
So she's across from the basketball court and Fisher. And then 3875.
And that's that cross street right there, right? What's that, Fisher and Fairview? That's that cross street that she was at. Yes. So that's where her camera was facing.
Right. So it's right here. So she caught the black car going that way. She caught his Tesla going that way just really briefly. And then a few seconds later, here's 3875 just around the corner. See that? There's 3875.
Wow. And you could hear it that, I mean,
oh, it was loud.
It's close, but it's also not. I mean, there's a lot of sound dampening things that would,
Exactly. Yes.
So can you imagine being like right next door? Like if you were that neighbor right next door?
Yeah. How did not more people
hear that?
My grammar's going too. The ability to construct logical sentences is going. But there's 3875. There's right there. Well, I think you can see that white. Yeah, you can see that white van.
Oh yeah, so, you were talking about that yesterday. You wanted to see if it was on Google Earth. There it is.
So the Jeep pulls up in front of there. That Jeep has to be blocking at least partially that. Even if they're touching noses, that Jeep has to be like partially over his driveway.
Right. And what's up with that car right behind the white van there? That's
trying
nose
not to block that driveway.
Yeah. I see now. That's nose to nose. That's funny.
And he's like, no, they're both parked parallel, facing east. But he's like, this a-hole won't pull up just a little bit more, so I don't have to hang over this driveway. He's like right there next to bumper to nose.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's where it happened right there, and then he takes off. I'm going to get rid of that so we can see better. No, there we go.
And yet, No says most of the neighbors were at work. Yeah, it was 9:15, right? 9:15, 9:30. So kids were at school, people were at work.
Okay, so follow my mouse. He takes off here to the T, and then he comes around the corner and he pulls up here next to the park or next to the pool.
And there's
right
the pool.
here.
Yep.
So then the Jeep takes off,
Mm-hmm.
goes around those two cars and comes up here too and sees him there and goes this way, is the way I understood the story, and then goes on down to Pecos.
Mm-hmm.
If he's here before the Jeep comes here, how did the Jeep pass him on the right? Like the Jeep goes behind him and he could see him in his rearview mirror, but the Jeep didn't pass him on the right for him to be able to look at the side of the Jeep and look in the driver's side window and see who was driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only way the Jeep would have passed him on the right is if he was coming.
If he's over here, if he like stopped over here somewhere, like at this intersection. But he doesn't say that. He says he pulls up here across from the water park.
But he does the loop, or does a U-turn. Does he?
Yes, he does. And then he sees the Jeep go by, and then he does the U-turn, and he kind of goes after them a little bit, but then comes around back home and pulls into his driveway.
Mm-hmm. So when was the Jeep caught on that Ring camera?
I don't think
before.
It was caught on the Ring camera. Did
it was before?
Did we see a Jeep on the Ring camera? Did they see a Jeep on the Ring camera?
No, I guess it was that dark car. It was the dark car, which was not.
Yeah, it was the dark car.
Just the dark car, right.
So it's kind of the Ring cameras here at 3893 here on the front of it, I think, on the front porch. And it's kind of facing diagonally across northeast across that.
Mm-hmm.
And so do we see the bloop of the black car like that? Why don't we see the bloop of the green Jeep?
Right. If it came that way, I guess maybe it came from a different way. Can it come a different way?
Well, if it comes around here and it turns left, say it comes from East Fairview, eastbound on East Fairview, and comes around like this, you would think that angle would still catch a glimpse of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Huh.
I'm having trouble figuring out these details, and I'm a detail person. I'm a maps person.
I know. I wish I'd taken a screenshot. Maybe over the weekend I'll find that when they showed the map and it was all marked up, and I'll screenshot that and I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah,
but I'm going to have to still start my Google Earth pin drop.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's important.
All right. Let's get back. There we go. Got to return to some sense of normalcy after you go down a side rabbit hole like that. Are people weighing in with their opinions on that? Because I know they're on a little bit of a delay from us. People have thoughts about that.
They're talking about neighborhood pools. Heard shot on Ring. She tried to sneak in the photo, got caught. Oh, sorry. Here, Renee. Lori Mathias, that said today during her lunchtime segment that when Lori keeps responding, oh, okay. Well, Brandon's response is that it's her trying to control her rage. Your thoughts?
Could be.
Okay. Yeah, what about Pryor? Because Pryor said the same thing. Pryor would do the same thing. He'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And detectives in interrogations do that too. Like when they're doing the read technique, that's like their standard response. Okay.
I catch myself sometime doing that. Okay.
They do it annoyingly too much. Like it's. Yeah. I watch a lot of interrogation videos, and when they start doing that on the one I'm watching, I'm like, fingernails on the chalkboard. I can't.
Mohawk Mom has a really good point. The stack of photos she tried to get in, I think they were from when he was at the Pink Pony. Remember the documents maybe that's what it was. The investigator has all of her documents. Maybe that was part of it as well.
Yeah, and there were photos that Pam was trying to get done in time to make it on court, which made her late. If that was it, that would be silly. That would be a huge waste of time because that's not getting in. That's not getting in. There's no way.
No. Yeah.
Northwest, I don't care whether it's taught or not. They do it. Maybe it's a natural thing. I can show you about 100 interrogation videos where they say, okay, like 4 times more than normal people would. Anyway,
I'm fighting back saying, okay. I'm fighting back saying, okay. Gotcha.
Oh yeah, gotcha. Another form of okay.
Right.
I think we see his cat before, then we hear the bang. Whose cat do we see? I don't know. I'm lost on that one, Mohawk.
I think we see his cat. Car.
Kathy.
Maybe a car. I think we see a car before we hear a bang.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was the cat running down the street like really, really fast? It was a black blur. All right. Deanna May, that makes sense to me. That totally makes sense to me. Like, guys will be guys, and they will do silly stuff. And taking one clip of guys dancing and being silly out of contexts.
Yep.
I'm wondering why it's 404B, why it introduces something about her character. I don't get that aspect of it yet. I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out, but I will someday. Somebody knows about the Pink Pony Facebook video. Actually, there probably is a Reddit group somewhere that's been talking about that and figuring things out. But I don't go to Reddit because I have a tendency to go down rabbit holes and not come out for a while.
Yep.
All right. So, so cameras on the Tesla, and then she asks him why he didn't take a picture of the plate on the Jeep. So that means he had to be I'm going to have to go back and watch the video, and we lost Dizzy, so she can't find it. So we'll find it later. But I swear he said that Jeep passed him on the right. He couldn't see the driver, and then he didn't take pictures of the license plate. And then it's about the Tesla itself. Did he take pictures of it? Yeah, of course I did. I sold it, and so I took a lot of pictures of it. When did he sell it? Well, it had to go to Gilbert PD. Gilbert PD had to do an investigation, but we learned later from Pillar that it was a short investigation. They were looking for more evidence, couldn't find it, so they gave it back to him as soon as possible. So they didn't have it all that long. It's not like they impounded it for a month or for 6 months for evidence like they do other vehicles.
Yeah.
They gave it right back to him because it's his only vehicle. Same thing with the phone. I don't think she questions him about the phone, but we learned earlier from Direct that they took his phone just to see if they could, find anything relevant to the investigation in it. But they gave it back to him like probably overnight. And then she asked him if he bought a burner phone in the meantime. Did you buy another phone? He's like, it didn't make sense to, because they didn't have it all that long. They weren't going to have it all that long. Then she tries to impeach him on changing the color of the Jeep. And he was like, well, puke green is pretty much gray to me. And I wouldn't necessarily agree with that assessment, but it's a subjective opinion, right?
Yep.
And then she asks him if he looked up the Jeep VIN. He says he never did, ever. Doesn't recall ever doing that. The jury during this whole time is in their baseline mode. Like they're not moving. They're sitting there still, but they are watching. They are paying attention. I don't see a whole lot of them taking notes during this part of it. And then she starts to talk about Alex, if he knows if Alex is an avid shooter, and they don't get very much down that line of questioning. Does he own guns? Yeah, I do now. Did you have one on October 2nd? No. Did Melanie have one? Yes. Did Melanie own it? Yes, Melanie bought it, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There is an objection from Ms. K on the question of whether or not he had one on October 2nd. Boreski overrules it.
Yeah, she does. She does ask. He got his phone back later that night. Didn't buy a new phone. Waited for his phone to be returned.
Yes. Yep.
So.
That's the next question.
Yeah.
Now there's a series of questions about the entire week leading up to the shooting, about when Melanie left to go out of town. And so he got the kids. He had just got this new house. So they did a quick move in with his friends. They didn't go over that today, but I'm filling in from prior testimony from direct. So the situation changed fast because Melanie was going out of town, and he had a new place to have the kids. So the kids came over probably on like Thursday or Friday. So he had them for the entire weekend, and then for 3 days the next week leading up to October 2nd. She asked how close. And so October 2nd was when when she was taking custody of them back over. So she had to come back from her trip. And then on Wednesday, he took them to school. She was going to pick them up. And then they did the kid drop thing at the park near Melanie's house. Then Lori asked him about how close the gym is to his house, how close the former house is to his house. And I'm not pulling the map back up to look at that, but that's on my list of things to add to Google Earth. Mm-hmm. And then the very last question that she asked him on cross was, were you trying to have Melanie charged with your murder? Objection, sustained.
Yep. Huh, that's funny. I have that line, but it says change her with your murder. No, charge her. That's a typo. Now that's a typo.
All right. I'm going to have to start. So I'm having to watch my court notes, and I'm having to watch chat. I can do both. I can do two things at the same time. Yes, I can. Look at this.
Good job.
All right.
132 people watching. Good job, Joe. That's exciting.
Oh, nice. Thanks, everybody, for joining us and hanging in here. It was an exciting day. We're past the most exciting part, I think. Yeah, we're past the most exciting part. That was it. Her getting kicked out of court was like probably the most exciting thing we'll see in court for a while.
Yeah.
Totally nuts.
Yeah, after this, we're the detectives and all that, but we can keep going. Actually, I think we're almost. Looks like we're
getting close.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So what I did in my notes, because I'm only taking jury notes now on there, and I'm taking court notes somewhere else, is I'm writing bigger so I can read it better when we're on here. So when I say I have 2.5 pages left, it's probably like 1 page. Now, where was I in the notes?
Redirect of Brandon.
Redirect.
Were you providing this info that we're trying to charge her? And then she had no more questions. Yeah.
Yes, at 2:05 p.m. our time. What sticks out in your mind about June 25th, 2019? It was a very painful time. He was worried about his family falling apart. He was very stressed out. That was a stressful argument. He had an argument with his wife. She wants a divorce. And then she goes into things that Melanie accused him of. The Temple recommends and hacking Lori's computer. So it's all about Lori. It's taking Lori's Temple recommend away and hacking her computer. So you don't think that Lori had anything to do with convincing Melanie that he was gay? That's ridiculous. Like two of the four things that he was accused of have to do with Lori. And one of them has to do with the pink pony Facebook dancing video. Did Melanie want a divorce for those reasons? Yes. Did Charles Vallow tell you that Lori was responsible? Yes. And then she says something interesting to me. Despite some changes of word X to word Y in your testimony versus the police report, she doesn't word it that way, but she does say, despite some changes of word X to word Y, do you remember that the back window of the Jeep opened up and a rifle barrel stuck out and shot at you? And he says what I think is his most interesting response of the day, and this was big to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you got shot at, you would remember it very vividly. I haven't ever been shot at, but I have had a gun pointed at me before. And I had nightmares for months, and I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow. Yeah, I would think so.
His response was, yes, I believe that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I believe that's what happened. That's just an interesting response to me.
He also said he was in shock, right? He said that a couple times, but
yes. Yeah, he was. Yeah. And his adrenaline was off the charts.
Yeah.
You know that it was. That fight or flight kicked in and he was in flight.
Mm-hmm.
But even when you engage in that flight, your instinct to fight still kind of like tries to surface a little bit in there too. So at one point in time, he like followed that Jeep down the path where the Jeep was exiting from the subdivision.
Right. Which I would never do. I would never, ever follow. If I thought I just got shot at, there's no way I would follow that car.
Right. Especially if you thought there had to be two people in it and one was driving it and one was still laying in the back of it with a rifle.
Yep. Yeah. And they know where you live. So I thought Lori had a good question of like, why did you go back? And he's like, I was just following what law enforcement told me. Like, I don't know if I would have gone back either, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So, and I just want to point out the fact that when I question specific wording of responses, I'm not saying that I doubt Brandon. So don't come at me with, oh, you're doubting Brandon's word and you're doubting that Lori and Alex tried to kill him. No, that I'm just saying I'm objectively observing testimony in court. I don't care who it is that's saying it. I try and be an objective observer, and that was an interesting phrasing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you all know that I've been here on this case for a while, and I want justice for all of the victims of this crazy woman, including Brandon. So no, I'm not engaging in any of her defense theories at all.
No, I don't think so. I'm not getting that.
So word X to word Y. Did you tell? So this is one of the last questions, and it was my last question that I noted. Did you tell Detective Pillar on October 2nd, 2019, that you believe that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were responsible for the shooting? Yes. And redirect at 2:19 p.m. No jury questions again. That was my next note. This jury has not had a single jury question for any witnesses.
That really shocks me because Brandon he's the star witness. He's the victim. He's the, he's everything. But okay. And then of course I'm going to counter that. It's like, well, what question would you ask him? If you had a question, what would you ask Brandon?
Right. It's a complicated story. And so it's just, it's a struggle just keeping up with the details of it and the logistics of it and how it all went down, let alone trying to fill in the blanks of something that you didn't understand, because did they understand it fully, or maybe they're having trouble understanding it and they don't know what to ask to understand better.
Yeah, I was going to say also in the moment, you might not be able to formulate a question, but then you think on it.
Right.
Then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I wish I had asked that question. We might get more questions next week as they're sitting on it this weekend. Maybe maybe they'll be ready for a question next week, you know?
Yeah. They're ready for a break from this madness. That's for sure. I mean, they weren't even in there for her little tantrum, obviously, but they get pulled into the court, or they get pulled into the courthouse for jury selection. They get sent home, and then it happens again. They get sent home again, and then they finally go through jury selection and voir dire, and then the trial starts Thursday, and then Friday. They're ready for a weekend break. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. Panagaz, I love that name. Panagaz has a great question. Brandon held up well, not a question, but just a comment. How did you think he did with the sparring? I mean, there was a lot of sparring. There was a lot of, you know.
You're not ever going to get a response from him like Kay or Nancy Joe, because he's just a laid back guy. He's just non-confrontational. He described that of himself, and I would agree with that assessment. He's non-confrontational. He's even keel. He did get emotional a couple times in the appropriate spots because he's remembering back to traumatic parts of his life. So he went through a lot in a short period of time. You know, the argument with Melanie leading up to the divorce, you know, her moving away for a period of time before coming back from Idaho, and, you know, all of the craziness that is a divorce with small kids. I mean, that in and of itself, then getting shot at, an attempt on your life, and trying to figure out the whole Lori thing. And then he had to go into hiding for a period of time because Melanie was coming after the kids.
Yeah.
Who knows who was coming after him, because Alex didn't die till what, December?
Yeah. He got married, and I think like 2 weeks later he was gone. Like the 19th, maybe 19th, 20th. I'm sure Northwest. Yeah. Somebody will let us know somewhere in there. Yeah.
The guy that took a shot at you, that you believe very strongly took a shot at you, is still out there somewhere.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, his entire life just exploded. His 4 kids, at least, you know, his marriage, moving out of a house. I can't even imagine, you know. I mean, I've gone through breakups, and it's like just me and a cat, you know. I can't imagine 4 kids, moving out of a house, $1 million house, having to sell it, you know, and then get shot at, you know. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
it is unreal, which at times in this, the jury is really paying attention, and they're really like on the edge of their seat, not for very long periods of time, but long enough to notice their deviation from baseline for me now.
Right. And then Susie reminded me, then he had to ID JJ, but that was like I think April of the following year. But still, then so I mean, if you look at it in the span of a year, this poor guy lost his family, lost his wife, at least his kids were still around, gets shot at, has to, you know, move out, has to ID JJ, you know, just horrific. Lost his grandfather. I mean,
that's what started it, because she wouldn't go to the funeral with him. And Lori, actually, we didn't talk about that. Lori tried to not impeach him on that, but like argue that, hey, you know that Melanie had a problem, was traumatized. I think she used the word traumatized by going to traumatized by funerals, something like that. So it was okay. It was okay that she didn't want to go to his grandfather's funeral.
Yeah. When she was 9, she passed away. Her mom passed away. I think there was a couple objections in that. She was trying to get that in. I'm pretty sure Trina Kay pulled up a couple objections about that.
Yeah. Mohawk June 9th. Yep.
June 9th it was. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So still within the year, but I mean, this is July, Charles dies. That's when, June 25th, the grandfather, July, Charles, October, he gets shot. Oh, he has to move out, you know, divorce happens. Just one thing after another with this guy.
Yep. So then the state calls Chandler Detective Nathan Duncan, who will be testifying about his investigation of the incident that took place at Lori Vallo's residence in Chandler. Basically, the pictures that he took
Oh, he was the last witness in the Charles Vallow trial. He was witness number 19.
Yes.
Because everybody's
Correct.
like, he looks familiar. He looks familiar. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And I went back to my notes, and he was the last witness number 19 in the Charles Vallow trial. So that's why he looked familiar.
Yes. Yep.
So.
And he sat at the prosecution table for almost the entire trial.
Right.
So she moves to enter the photos that he took at the Chandler scene, at Charles Vallow's murder scene. Lori requests a sidebar, and whatever Lori objected to is overruled because his photos are published. She puts them up there. So we see the Jeep in the garage, and then we see Alex's truck in the driveway with yellow police tape wrapped around it, strung across it. I would have argued that that's prejudicial to the jury. But they know that the police were responding to an incident at that location, so I probably would have been overruled. They already know that. So seeing yellow police tape at a location where police responded to an incident. But honestly, if I were on the jury, that would be impactful to me, because you don't cordon off a scene with yellow police tape unless it's a serious scene.
Yeah.
So you don't do that at a domestic violence situation or assault and battery, or usually not a burglary, or there are very few things where you actually see yellow police crime scene tape up. So I could make a good argument that that's prejudicial. But the judge lets it in, and she publishes it. They see it. And then we get into the iCloud stuff. So we start with Lori for style. This is a lot of the same things we saw in the last trial. I don't think any of these texts and other things are new to us.
Yeah, nothing really jumped out at me as like revelational, revealing. I wasn't like, oh.
Yeah. When they had that first sidebar, when Lori asked to go to the sidebar, it was kind of a lengthy sidebar, because the judge had to take all of those photos, and he looked through all of those photos to see if Lori's objection, would play out, or were valid, which they ended up not being. But the jury was stretching a little bit. They were like sitting back in their chair. They were yawning, or shifting in their seats. As the more that sidebar went on, they were getting more restless. They were looking around. There were definitely some that I saw, especially while the judge is flipping through the photos, deciding each one by one. There are no faces to watch. There's no dialogue going on between the parties. Trina Kay's not saying anything. Lori's not saying anything. Judge isn't saying anything. So they got kind of restless during that sidebar. But immediately after that sidebar was over and she started presenting the evidence, they returned to their baseline. That's like boom, they snapped right into it.
Okay.
This is a good jury.
Good. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, just to do that on command, that means they've been instructed well by the judge, and they're following the instructions of the judge. And I'm not worried about juror 9, who's fidgety and he plays with his hands and he plays with his shirt and plays with his arm. I think that's his baseline. I just think I'm not going to say ADHD, but I just think he has trouble just sitting still and paying attention. But that doesn't mean he's not paying attention.
Sure. Right. Externally, he may be what you're observing, but internally, he's absorbing it, one would think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Then we get into the SMS text messages and the emails. In March of 2019, they share an email address, and then they get into the text messages from Brandon to Lori. during his argument with Melanie on June 25th, 2019. That was the big argument that was like the beginning of the end of their marriage. So we find out that all of those messages were read by Lori and they were not replied to.
Right.
Which that's what Brandon testified to earlier, that he texted her and he never got any replies back. And this is the digital confirmation of that.
Right.
And I think that Trina K is like going there, like it doesn't prove conspiracy, but it proves that she's not caring enough to help like salvage their marriage. So just plants a seed in the back of the mind of the jury that she's not really into saving the marriage. And maybe that means she was into destroying the marriage. Then we get into the Lolly Time account, which was associated with one of Lori's other multiple phone numbers that she had. She had multiple phone numbers. I think she had 3, if I remember right. And then, so this iCloud stuff and this cell phone data stuff goes on for a while, and they get bored for a little bit, but honestly, not that long. Like it's almost like a wave that goes through them. Like they shift a little bit and kind of look up and down a little bit, but then they reset to baseline. They reset to baseline like after a minute or so at the most of acting bored or restless. But during this time, juror number 5 is also taking copious notes. I mean, he's like scribbling like a maniac during this time, during the SMS text messages and iCloud account stuff. So Lori has an objection to the next set of data, of iCloud data that Trina K once published, and that she's going to have Detective Duncan testify to. So the judge sends the jury out. It's about break time anyway. He's like, why didn't the jury just go take a break so we don't have to have a sidebar? But that's good for us because we get to see what they're talking about. So he sends the jury out and says, what's your objection? And Lori says, well, Detective Duncan didn't do the extraction. And Trina K says, or the judge, one or the other says, it's not an extraction, it's data from the iCloud, from Apple. And she says, they just sent it to him. And he says, well, you can ask him how he got it on cross. And then they go to break. But she doesn't understand how the data thing works. And actually, when we resume, he kind of explains how that happens when he does an Apple warrant or an iCloud warrant, or he does an AT&T warrant. So we hear about all that stuff, which we already pretty much kind of know. Right. We get back from break, and here's my note. The jury resets to baseline. Juror number 9 is chewing on his fingernails.
No.
That's
like,
his baseline. That's
nervously. That's like
no. He's
just,
bored.
It's like
I don't think it's nerves. I think it's maybe habit.
Yeah.
He's just like I don't know what to do with myself when I have to sit here so long. So he's expending energy in one way or another, I think. Sure. And I don't think it's nervous energy. I think it's just like he doesn't know how to sit still for this long of a period of time.
Right.
So he explains how an iCloud search warrant gets submitted through Apple's portal. Which is a funny word. The report, how the reports are published. So the reports are published. So then we get the reports from Apple, and we see receipts from a Hampton Inn in Rexburg in August of 2019. And we see several emails August 26th of 2019 from Blue Sky. Did you write down the date of those, the exact date of those Hampton Inn?
I have the 15th, August 15th. I
Okay.
just had the one. Were there? Yeah, I just caught the one.
Okay. Yeah, I missed it, and I regretted it immediately afterwards, but I know you got my back.
Oh yeah, always.
So the next one is August 26th, 2019, Blue Sky Property Management for reservation and payments. Did you guys do any research on Blue Sky Property Management?
No, I did not.
I assume it's like an Airbnb type of thing.
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming.
There were a lot. There was like at least 4 or 5 receipts thanking her for the payment. Yeah.
So there were reservations and payments. Then he gets into Chad Daybell's phone records, call detail records from AT&T. And now is this the first time that the jurors have heard the name Chad Daybell?
No, but interestingly enough, I just Googled Blue Sky Property. They're not even close to Arizona or Utah or Idaho. They're in, looks like maybe Chicago, looks like a couple in Florida.
What about Hawaii?
Doesn't look like it. South Carolina and maybe like in Virginia. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. All right, no, we've heard Chad before. Hold on. Chad. Let me just Google Chad. Wow. Wait a minute. Okay. Moved to Rexburg, closer to Chad. So I have 6 mentions of Chad. Oh, so opening. So she talked about Chad twice. The storage unit. She pulled up Chad's name in the storage unit. Didn't know Chad Daybell. So Brandon Boudreaux didn't know Chad, but became aware of him later. There's a letter from Chad to Alex. So that was Detective Ferrer. That's in the truck, right? There was a letter from Chad to Alex in the truck along.
Right.
Remember that, along with that fake practice bullet. Found photos of Chad and Lori in Hawaii. That was Duncan, who we're on right now, right? We're on Duncan right now.
Yeah. So the jury might be wondering who Chad Daybell is at this point.
Yeah. And then now the 515 number is Chad. So that's the last mention that I have of Chad. So, so we've touched upon Chad. Oh, I don't even know.
And we did hear at one point that he and Lori were married in November in Hawaii, right? We heard that from somebody.
Yeah, there were pictures. Duncan said that earlier, I think. Yeah. That there was, pictures of their marriage in Hawaii in November. Yep, exactly. Yep.
Right. Okay. That pretty much wraps up direct from my notes.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. It's a little dry, and it can be a little boring, I guess, because it really wasn't. Yeah, I didn't have much other than the 515 number was Chad's. That's. I have a lot of notes, but that was really the thing that jumped out at me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like a revelation, like back in the first trial, that Melanie 2 in one of her contacts list was actually Chad. Remember that? Melanie 2 is Chad.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get to Cross, and she has some interesting questions on Cross. First, she asks if the AT&T data is provided through a portal. And I'm like,
yeah, we were all over that too.
I put a little laughing face on my tweet on that. I don't usually do that. I try and be like objective, but I couldn't help it.
You can't. Yeah, you got to.
She asked him how many emails were sent from Apple, and he doesn't recall because it was 5 years ago, 5+ years ago. And then she goes, "But you could just look on your computer and see, right?" Like, he has his computer in front of him, and he's just gonna like search right now how many, he's gonna do his Microsoft inbox search for Apple, Apple warrants,
right?
And they're just going to come up with 2,375 warrants or whatever it is. No, it doesn't work that way, Lori. He doesn't have his computer, number one. The question boggles my mind. Like, at times she will like hit something really close to the nail on the head, and then at other times she's just way out in left field. And this is one of them.
Yeah, agreed.
You can just look on your computer and see, right? No. Well, not to mention the fact that if you have 5 years of emails on your computer, that means your computer hasn't been changed in 5 years. And that has happened to me a few times. I will keep a computer for a while if it's a good machine till it wears out.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I do have to clean out my emails from time to time. I get a lot of emails with large attachments, so it just fills up my memory. It takes up my memory. So,
right,
yeah. And if those are warrant searches with a bunch of data, or warrant returns with a bunch of data, they will eat up a ton of space on your hard drive. So she's questioning the accuracy of the data. So you get that from Apple and you don't know how accurate it is. And he says, I trust Apple to provide me with accurate data, but you don't know how accurate it is. No, I trust Apple to provide me with accurate data. Like, I don't think anybody on the jury is buying that.
No.
Like there's one older person now who's maybe older than me, but the majority of the jury is middle-aged and lower. So they know about Apple and they know about the accuracy of Apple data. Maybe that really old guy, maybe juror number 10 who got excused, might have questions about the accuracy of Apple, but he's no longer on the jury.
Well, she was going down, how do you know all the data comes up in that report, the Celebrite report? He's like, I can't answer that. So a detective could pull the info they want and put it in a report. He's like, I suppose. So I think she's going for cherry picking. And Trina K addresses that, I think, straight out of pretty much straight out the gates. It's like, that's where she was going. Like, well, you get this report and, how do you know this detective isn't just, cherry picking information? And he explains it and we'll get to it. But I thought it was, I like the way he explained that away. He's like, well, again, we'll get to that, but she was going there and they smacked it. They took care of it and redirect pretty quickly.
Yeah. So the last question she asked him, I think, is about the report. The last line of questioning is about the report that he created from the investigation into her iCloud and Alex's phone records, how many hours he spent on them, hundreds on hers. He says less. She says less on Alex's probably, and he says yes. Then he gives a different answer to Trina K, but not a big deal, not even a small deal. So how long was my report and how long was Alex's? Well, I put them all in the same report. So I don't know where she was going with that. And that ends cross. I have a note that juror number 5 was taking notes pretty studiously during the Celebrite exchange. And by the way, juror number 16 is in the front row all the way to the right because they go 1 to 9 on the top row and then they go 10 to 16 on the bottom row. And she has like longish dark hair, like really dark. I don't know if I call it black, but I think it's black. And she's always slumped over. So her hair falls over her face and I can't tell what she's doing. But I sat myself in a little better seat today and she's taking notes. She may be like the most furious note taker of them all. And I thought she was just like looking down, just like not paying attention, just like, I don't even know how to verbalize what I thought she was doing, but I did not think she was taking notes as studiously as she has been taking notes. Like she's probably taking as many notes as I've been taking.
Okay. That's good. I mean, I like it. You want a jury to be attentive and taking notes and,
Yeah, Trace on the case and I actually had a conversation about that today. You can take too many notes, and actually there are some judges that will admonish juries not to take too many notes. So to take a good number of notes, but if you take too many, then you can maybe not be paying attention to what a witness is stating. Like, because there's no way, and I can testify to this, there's no way your hand can keep up with their mouth. There's just no way.
Right.
So
And then also you're not looking at the person. You're not.
yes, exactly.
You know,
Yes.
I fall into that trap because I'm sitting here, I'm looking at my, I'm typing, and I'm looking here and I'm missing, the facial expressions, so that is important, to see, especially witnesses. You want to see their demeanor, you want to see their facial expressions, you want to see how they, are they being, are they being scowling? Are they smiling? That kind of stuff,
Right.
So.
And you are the jury, you are instructed that you are the lone determination of the credibility of the witnesses. Mm-hmm. So both sides are going to attack certain witnesses. So the defense is going to attack the prosecution witnesses, and the prosecution is going to attack the defense witnesses. So you are the lone determiner of the credibility of each witness. So you definitely should be arriving at some kind of conclusion about their credibility while they're on the stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why it's cool why they have jury questions in Arizona, or at least in Maricopa County. I don't know about the rest of Arizona, because if you have a question about a witness's credibility, like if you think they stumbled over some words, I mean, you have the opportunity to like press them on a little bit if you don't think one of the legal teams did.
Right.
Oh, all right.
We have two more to get through.
Yep. On redirect, I just have a simple note, standard redirect, nothing shocking. It's like 5-6 minutes long. She just, I didn't know that she had a whole lot to rehab on that one, but what do you have on that?
Yeah, well, this is she rehabilitates him by he prefers forensic detectives not know anything about the case, so they can't secretly choose what to send back or not. So that totally shot down Lori's theory of like, oh, you're sending it out to these detectives, or Apple is cherry picking what they send back to you. So within 10 seconds, Miss K shot that down.
Right.
So that was the big takeaway from that.
Yep. And I have a note.
Oh,
no, go ahead. No.
Well, we may have the same note.
No, you don't, because mine is a juror note.
Okay. Because the judge says, "Do you intend to admit 187?" And Trina K is like, "Oh yeah, state moves to admit the freaking exhibit." So Trina wasn't even going to submit that into evidence, and the judge had to say, "Do you intend to admit that?" And I was like, I knew that you would be like, judge, you're helping the state, like, what did you think about that? Really?
It's unusual. It's unusual for Trina K to mess up, but she does from time to time. Like in the last trial, she tried to publish something, or she was publishing something that she didn't ask for permission to publish, like on one of the exhibits. So she does from time to time, and I'm just like, if Lori's her own lawyer, then she should know that she might have something there to object to, and she didn't. So,
okay,
we'll just keep rolling along. Because Trina K is so sharp on a lot of other things that I'm.
So if Bresky had not said that whole report would never have gotten admitted.
Yeah. But the jury already heard it. You can't unring the bell.
Yeah. All right. So you had a note. Oh.
Yeah. Juror number 6, during that redirect, which I had down as standard redirect, and she easily rehabilitated the things that Lori attacked. Juror number 6 takes a big drink, and he leans forward in his seat for a few minutes, and he is listening intently to this redirect.
Oh,
so okay. I don't know what caught his attention in that, but something did. Then we get to Tom Olzak. He's a retired state trooper, and I was writing something down, and I didn't hear clearly what his current job is, but it's like FBI, is it?
I just got digital forensic, but yeah, this is where I missed closed captioning, because I did not catch Other than he works for the Secret Service. That's really the only thing that
Secret
I caught.
Service, that's what it is. Yeah.
But
Secret Service.
he blasted out something and all. It was not digital forensics, but I think eventually he kind of got back to that. But he had a title, or he had a job description, and I was just like,
Right.
I never heard of that before. The way he phrased it, it was just I was having trouble. I had trouble with this guy. I liked him. I mean, I liked him as a witness, but I had trouble kind of following what he did and what he does.
Right. But in 2019, he was a digital forensic specialist with the Arizona Department of Public Safety in 2019.
Yeah.
They just get into the infotainment system. Mm-hmm. And in November of 2019, Gilbert PD asked for help with the infotainment system, which the state DPS helps with on a regular basis. And he traveled up to Rexburg to examine the Jeep. And he brought the infotainment system back with him to Arizona to examine it using the chip-off method, and he was unsuccessful in obtaining any data from it. My notes on the jurors, Juror 5 is taking notes. As soon as Tom Olzak comes in, he's taking down the name of this expert witness or non-civilian witness. And Juror 6 is taking notes. And then the jury resets to their baseline. And at some point during this testimony, Juror 9 starts taking some notes, and Juror 7 is leaning forward, and Lori is taking notes.
So they were trying to get the infotainment system from the Jeep, and ultimately he didn't get any information from the Jeep.
No.
That's the takeaway from this. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he was also called back in January, the following January of 2020, to do the same for Alex's Ford 150. He was able to see that certain phone numbers had connected to the infotainment system in 2019, namely October of 2019, and he did obtain call logs from those numbers.
Okay.
And I didn't see much else where she dove into any more details. I didn't write down the numbers. They were going by too fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have many notes on this guy, other than the trim package and the infotainment system. Yeah, for some reason, my mind was kind of just farting out on him. I don't know why. He was a good witness, but
there wasn't a whole lot, and it was a short. It was a very brief.
Yeah.
And then she walked away. I mean, I have in my courtroom notes and my trial notes, direct ends abruptly. Mm-hmm. Like there wasn't like a good warm feeling at the end of it, or cold. Either way, it was just kind of like, okay. So he got some information. He must have passed that on to somebody. So she's laying the foundation for another witness is what she's doing.
Right. He did go to Rexburg with. Did he say the guy's name that he went with? Because
I don't remember that. It was, I know Pillar did. Pillar said he went up with Lachik, and then I didn't get the name of the other guy. Was it?
Yeah. Olzak.
Was it? Okay. So it was Olzak and Pillar and Lachik that went up to Rexburg to examine the Jeep. Okay. And Lori doesn't cross him. And so then they call Ryan Pillar, who was a detective in 2019, but is now a school resource officer. And she starts off by asking if Gilbert had a full crime scene investigation staff in 2019. No, so officers were trained in basic crime scene investigation procedures and techniques. Then she goes into October 2nd, 2019. Highlights that I have you seen cars that have been struck by bullets before? Yes. When you saw the damage to the car, what did you believe it to be? A bullet hole. Is that damage to the car consistent with other bullet holes you have seen before? Yes. When he walked up there were cones in the street. Now, I thought this was interesting. I believe that those cones were placed in locations where glass was found. He says locations, plural. Now, if I remember right, a previous witness testified there was only one glass shard in the street.
There was, yep.
But he says locations plural, and maybe to locate where the front and back of the car was at the time of the shooting. He says, I did observe glass in the street. Those are my highlights from that. Before they get into the interview with Brandon in his car with the air conditioner on and with privacy, so they got to have a private conversation. Talks about establishing a rapport because he used to be SVU. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Tries to be funny, tries to make jokes, I guess. He's outgoing. We know he's outgoing and he's funny and tries to make jokes. Is he single?
Yeah. No ring. Somebody said that in our chat. No ring. No ring.
Did they really? Oh, no.
Yeah. I forget who said that, but they said, yeah, no ring.
I know this. Oh, I know. Oh my gosh. I knew it. That's when, during that interview, at some point in time, Brandon told him, well, after they established the rapport, Brandon told him that he believed that Lori and Alex were involved in the incident that happened in Chandler. And then they went to the Tesla and they unsuccessfully tried to retrieve the video from the Tesla because there was no video storage device. And then they moved to the processing of the Tesla, evaluation of evidence, the search for additional evidence. After they didn't find any around the block of Brandon's path of travel, they took his phone and his Tesla to Gilbert PD. They searched them for evidence and then they gave them back. Then he gave his personal cell phone number to Brandon for additional communication. And he later learned that Melanie, Lori, and Alex had moved to Rexburg. And then, this is a big one to me, a Department of Public Safety DPS plate reader on I-40 recorded the Jeep with its plate and took a picture of it heading towards Phoenix 26 and a half hours before the shooting.
Right. I assume that was north-south. Does I-40 go north-south? I just
No, I-40 goes east-west.
Okay. All right.
But I say generally east-west. So even numbered interstates go east-west. Odd numbered interstates go north-south, like I-95, I-75, I-65.
Right.
I-15. Those are generally north to south, although, at some places they bend around and they go opposite direction.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was the big takeaway so far, right? Because he's not done. Yeah, he's not done with direct, but I thought that was the big takeaway so far.
Yeah, and I don't know if we knew that before or if we didn't know that before, but I didn't know it before.
She mentions the readers in her opening, and she mentions I-40.
Right, but I mean before the trial started, were there people out there who knew that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that before.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah, LPR was photographed on October 1st, I-40. That was everything, Trina, she's actually a professional. When she mentions something in opening, she comes with receipts for evidence, which is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
It sounds silly to say that, but that's, it's nice when you hear something in opening and then, oh, wait a minute. And then she presents the evidence and you make that connection.
Yeah, and the last thing that I have in my notes is he later learned that the Jeep was located in Rexburg. He wrote a search warrant and he traveled to Rexburg. So that would be with Tom Olzak and Tammy Lachek.
What was her? What was her title? She was
a forensic investigator for Gilbert PD.
Okay.
And if we remember right, Pillar said that they only had 2. So she was one of 2 forensic investigators for Gilbert PD.
Okay. So they all headed up to Rexburg. Right.
And I think they may have actually made a return trip up there. And I don't think it was all 3 of them. May have been 2 of them or a different 3 that went up the second time. And I'm pulling this out of the air. just as a faint memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't recall. Oh, no. Nice, Jamie.
Oh, that's funny.
Juror 7 is taking notes about Joe taking notes about
Yep.
Juror 7 taking notes about Joe taking notes. It's like looking in a mirror, in a mirror, just, keeps going on. And
Right.
on. Did you talk about gunshot residue? Everything that they went up there for?
I did. Hold on one second.
That was the last thing that I had
Yes.
down. Not that it's a big deal, but
they
that
traveled
was.
They traveled to Rexburg to inspect the Jeep. It was processed for GSR, DNA, fingerprints, casings, fragments, and any other evidence, he said, and seized the infotainment system. But I didn't take notes. So she said, "What is GSR?" And I didn't take notes on that, what GSR is, because I think we all kind of know, but
Yeah.
feel free
Plus,
to
he
share.
said he's not an expert. He said maybe
Right.
it's 5 feet away or something like that. But yeah,
Right.
so yeah, my notes stopped there. The gun, the GSR, DNA, fingerprints. That's
Yep.
where my
That's where mine stopped too.
And then a 10:30 start for you on Monday. So they're back to where they were for Charles, right?
Yeah, and that's because Judge Kemp has a morning docket, and we're in Judge Kemp's courtroom, so we have to, respect his docket.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't yesterday. That was Thursday. Wednesday, when we all showed up for jury selection, Judge Kemp had a morning docket that day, and I just happened to casually be walking by the docket, and we were supposed to start at 10 o'clock that day. And I noted, and they have the list of the people that are, having to appear in court and the times of their start. And they're all like 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30. One of them said just one, 10:30. And we're supposed to start at 10. So I went to Vincent, the PIO, Public Information Officer, and I'm like, "Vincent, did you know that Judge Kemp may have a person supposed to appear before him at 10:30?" And he's like, "I'll go check on it." And he goes, and they got it sorted out. And I don't know if it was a mistake in the system or if they really had somebody scheduled and they had to reschedule him or something. It was just odd, this whole valid legal thing is supposed to kick off at 10, and somebody's going to wander in at 10:30 and be like, "Am I in the right room?"
Oh, that's a nightmare, wandering into that.
Yeah. Which I do every day for all of you.
And we appreciate it. So, all right. So that was, we're up to, I was comparing this trial to Charles's trial, and I got to, there were 19 witnesses, and Mr. Duncan was number 19. But people were asking how long will this last? How long will it last? Let me get to my let's see. Let me go back to. So it was 7 days, 19 witnesses, all for the state. So we're pretty confident that, well, I think we can say with 100% confidence that Lori will not be putting on a defense. And Trina Miss K we're probably about halfway done with her case. So 2 days.
Have you counted the actual witnesses that have
9? She's up to 9.
9.
Yep.
9 out of 22. So that's.
Oh, it is 22. That's what you.
Yeah.
You count 22. Okay. So that's more than. Yeah.
Yes.
That's more
than. There are 16 law enforcement / public official and 6 civilian.
Okay.
Oh, I was supposed to send you that list. Gosh darn it.
It's okay. We got the weekend. So we've heard from Brandon, Elizabeth, Robert. Those are the civilians, and Lynette. So we've heard from 4 out of, you said 6 civilians?
Yes.
So 4 out of this. Yeah. So, she's cruising along. She did 5 day 1. Then Brandon was a cross for today. So 1, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So, because Brandon, so it's pretty much we've had 10 witnesses because Brandon was a carryover.
Right.
she's cruising, right? She's cruising right along. So
Yep.
you think if she can get through 5 witnesses a day, 5, 10, 15, 20, that's only 4 days. So Wednesday, she might be resting.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, and then Lori probably will not have any case in chief, and then closings Thursday. And yeah, we may have it. It's a strong possibility. There may be a verdict by the 13th, Friday the 13th.
I have said that from the beginning. We're going to be done by Friday the 13th.
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't think her little shenanigans and her 2-day delay. Well, first of all, Judge Boreski is like, we're going to get back on track with this. Mm-hmm. We're going to start as early as we can. We're only going to have 1 hour lunch breaks, and I don't care if the media and the public only get 45 minutes. We're going to continue on schedule. We're
going to crash through this thing. Yeah. Yeah. Debbie asked, so Lori has no witnesses. No, because she missed the subpoena dates, just like in Charles's case. She wanted them, but she just didn't get them out in time. She didn't get her subpoenas out in time.
Well, she didn't. She did successfully subpoena one of the witnesses on her witness list. Well, one LE and one civilian. Mm-hmm. She did successfully subpoena Moffitt from Chandler PD, which I don't know what his relevance is, and neither does she, I'm sure. And then Weaver Barkman from her civilian list, and nobody knows who Weaver Barkman is. Oh yeah, somebody did. Somebody said it in my chat the other day, and now I can't remember.
Yeah, I've never heard that name.
Yeah, he is the only one of her civilian witnesses on her list that was successful. Melanie Gibb, Zulema Pastanis, even Lonnie Dworkin, who is her expert, couldn't get subpoenaed. She couldn't subpoena him. I'm like, is he hiding somewhere?
he's in Hawaii.
Right. She needs to send Nate after him. Here, Nate, go serve this on him.
Right. How is it going sitting where you're sitting before we wrap it up for the week?
Yeah. So it's just like the public crowd. So the public crowd has dwindled. So has the media crowd. So we still get the back 2 rows to ourselves, but we get to spread out now. So I can like put my backpack down over here, and I can put my phone and my phone charger over here, and I can put my notebook over here, and I can put my laptop on my lap and like spread out my elbows. And
nice. You can eat onions and garlic for lunch. Nobody will care.
Right. I did turn down the tuna fish sandwich to get a chicken sandwich today.
Smart move.
Yeah.
So Weaver Barkman is a ballistics expert.
There you go.
Rachel and Heather say, thank you guys for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there are people in there, and they probably told me that the other day, and it just like, it goes in one ear and out the other sometimes.
So hold on. Denise is saying guilty verdict by Father's Day for Brandon. Didn't she or for Charles? Wait, wasn't she convicted for Mother's Day for Tylee and JJ? Am I remembering that right? Was that back in May of last year or 2 years ago? She was 2013, right?
You know what? That's ringing a bell.
When did
2023
Daybell get convicted for JJ and Tylee? May 12th, 2023. So I think that was Mother's Day basically. And then now Father's Day.
Yeah. Well, technically Mother's Day and Father's Day are on a Sunday. So you can't get convicted.
Roughly though. Roughly.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you're splitting hairs at this point. Work with me, Joe. Work with me. Come on. Look at the sweet justice of that.
There are a lot of coincidental dates in this thing throughout the years. Like Kresha can educate us all on those significant dates. Yeah. And yes, June 9th is one of those significant dates when they found Tylee and JJ.
Yeah, and that's Monday or when is? Yeah, that's Monday.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's Monday. Yeah.
Are you guys? Is there any? You guys going to do anything? Have you heard about any kind of amongst the people that that are going to the trial and know the history and everything?
I haven't heard anything. No. Crash and I did a live together on JJ's birthday, which was really sweet and sad, bittersweet. But we celebrated his life.
Nice. Yeah, and even I wasn't even suggesting doing something live, but just amongst the people that are there in the court, just to
Nobody has said anything, but I imagine we'll talk about it.
Wear a ribbon or something, or I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. Trace on the case has all of those people's phone numbers. She is such a social bug. Like, she gets everybody's phone number. So
nice.
We'll reach out and see who's going to be there.
Yeah, cool.
All right, let's start looking at these. Mallory Beavers.
Thank you, Mallory. Appreciate your $1.99 gift.
Awesome. And Sinbad in the house. Why would Trina worry about appellate issues? She's already convicted in Charles's case. Let her open the door. Because it's an extra hearing that she has to put up with her, I think. Like, Trina is super confident, and so am I, that she has a case for conviction of Lori Daybell and the attempted first-degree murder of Brandon Boudreaux, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. So she has so much confidence and she has so much evidence that any delays like a 404B hearing are just an annoyance. Because so Lori's going to make an argument on her behalf, and that means the state has to make a counter argument against Lori's argument, which is just more work and more possible delays. So she's like, sit down and shut up, Lori. Yeah, there is. Like, the most prolific serial killer in the greater Phoenix area is on trial in the same courthouse at the same time. And nobody knows about it. Trey sent me a link this morning, I think, and I haven't had a chance to look into it yet. But Lori is such an energy vulture, time and energy. There we go. There's your answer. Serial killer. And his background is interesting too. Jesse, nice. Very nice. Welcome, new members.
Cleefus Cooksey. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going through the super chats and stuff. I can't go down another rabbit hole tonight. Don't take me there. Janelle, thank you so much. Cup of Joe, $20 will give me more than a cup of Joe. Thank you, Janelle. Thanks for being in the chat too, and thank you for offering your insight into all that's going on. Puzzle pieces. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations to you, Joe, hitting 2,000. That's fantastic.
Yeah, a big milestone, and thank you for your congratulations and your super chat puzzle pieces, and thank you for subscribing. One more on the way to the next benchmark.
For Polly Treats, feed that new mama. Thank you, Sinbad. She is eating.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say she's eating so much right now. She's resting. I think, she's tucked away for the night, obviously. But She is rightfully so, understandably so, and we're just feeding her. Here, eat. So she's doing well. For those that don't know, we had a feral cat that's given birth. We first met her and Rafa, who's been meowing. I don't know if he's still around. Basically about a year ago, like right at the end of June, beginning of July, and Polly got pregnant. And she gave birth yesterday to 3 black cats and 1 ginger cat. So we're very excited for Polly and the 4 new kittens that she brought into the world. And I've been showing the kittens on our stream. So on Lori Vallo's stream, like during lunch, and I've been showing the stream. So it's a fun distraction of after listening to Lori babble on and all the evil that she brings into the world. It's nice to watch Kitty Cam for an hour or so. While Joe is busting his back, trying to find lunch in 40 minutes or 45 minutes and doing a live for us, I'm showing Kitty Cam. So
I'll have to go back and watch some of those because kitty cams can counteract that evil.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
All right. I think we got through all the super chats and all the starred messages.
Yeah. I think, and it's only been 3 hours. Yesterday, I think it was 3.5 or something. So we're paring it down.
Yeah, we're learning. We got to weed through stuff that we don't need to get into too deep.
With Charles's trial, it was like we'd hit 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We're like, whew, boy, we're dead. And now we're like 3 hours.
Right.
Let's keep going. Let's be like Kramer. Let's just keep going, pushing it. Yes, tanks on empty. Let's go. So, but I think the difference is today's Friday. I know I can sleep in even more so than I did today. So, what are you doing this weekend? You said you're going to get some sleep. You're going to stream. You're going to do a recap of the week.
That's actually a really good idea. Maybe like on a Sunday afternoon when people are getting home from church and are just hanging out and chilling and looking for something to watch. It's actually a good idea. And that would help me collect my thoughts too, like put together. So we had a document drop this morning that Dizzy actually teased on this. We never got to that document. It was the smackdown of Lori's 10-1 motion for a new judge.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out. I believe I was the first one to come out with that because that posted on the docket early this morning. Actually, that's the one that Lori just filed yesterday afternoon at noon. Mm-hmm. And she filed it in Judge Bresky's court. And he's like, I'm not the judge to review this. So she filed it with Judge Green, who's the one that denied the last one. And
the other one, yeah.
Judge Green denied it like super fast, and it appeared on the docket super fast. Like, bam. No thanks. Mm-hmm. No good. But I posted that online at 5:20 this morning. Justin didn't post it till like 7:30. So I beat Justin Lum again.
You scooped him.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
All right. So you're thinking you'll do that Sunday afternoon. So, all right. So yeah, I'm going to be doing some lawn work. I got to mow the lawn this weekend. Which I enjoy doing. I have no problem doing that. It gives me a chance to get outside, get some sun, get some exercise, fresh air. So, and then just spending time with the kitties. I actually moved them today, because we're really sensitive about that because, they say don't touch the cats, for at least the first week or two. You don't want to put your scent. The mom may walk away from them. But interestingly enough, Polly, when she was starting to go into labor, we were sitting on the couch eating lunch, getting ready for the streams to start. And she just started to meow, and you could tell it was a different meow. So I got up and she kind of walked me into the bathroom, which we had kind of set up, her little birthing room, if you will. And she walked me in there. So, and then she went into this box and she started to purr. And then like hour and a half later, she started to give birth. So she wanted us to be around. But then this morning, I went down to give her water and she kind of growled at me. She was like that, which she's never done before. And then she totally warmed up, and then I just sat with her and she was just purring. So I felt confident that I could move her kittens without her, saying no to them. And sure enough, we cleaned, we had a wee pad down, so we threw that away. We cleaned that up. We gave her fresh bedding, and she went right back in there, and everything's cool. So when I say spend time with the kittens, obviously we're not going to touch them. We'll just take pictures, and we'll take like 1,000 pictures and post them on we'll post them all over our social media. So that's what I have planned. Definitely going to check you out Sunday. You think what time do you think your time?
Don't ask me that now, because I'll just be lying to you.
I got you. Yeah. No worries. It's late.
No questions. I'll tell you no lies.
I hear you, man. All right. I'll let you go. Joe, as always, thank you so much for your insight. Really appreciate hanging out with you and talking with you. I'd love to get to a real, an actual trial in the flesh with you at some point. I think that'd be a blast. Maybe sometime we can hook up. But have a fantastic weekend, and we'll look for you hopefully on Sunday, and if not, definitely Monday. We'll reconnect.
Monday will bring a whole new world of surprises. All
right. Real quick, CC True Crime on our, we're posting on our YouTube channel. We're also on X, Facebook, Patreon. If you become a member, we're on Patreon as well, and Blue Sky. Those are all of our places. And so you can check it out there. So.
All right, Squeegee, thanks for hanging out. And
all right, Joe.
Go through this craziness.
Absolutely, man. All right. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you either Sunday on the tubes or Monday for sure. Monday night.
All right.
Okay. Have a good one, buddy.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay, chat. Thanks everybody for hanging with me. And sorry I couldn't talk more individually with you, but we will, we had a lot to go over tonight. And I think my brain has already pulled 3 directions. So I appreciate everybody dropping in on chat. We're going to hopefully work on like a summary show like Squeegee suggested. I think that's a good idea. I wasn't thinking about it, but I think that's a good idea. A week recap. So look for us over the weekend sometime. Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you on the other side.
Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Oh, we can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about